Hi guys, it's me, Chazza HD, and welcome to race day for the 9th Grand Prix of 2025, the Spanish Grand Prix at the Circuit De Catalunya near Barcelona. And yeah, we are in for, I think, definitely a decent race. I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to be a great race because it is hard to overtake at this track. And we do have, of course, one team locking out the front row, which is something that hasn't actually happened here on the grid at the Spanish Grand Prix since 2020. So, yeah, been quite a few years since that's happened. But, yeah, it's not going to be, I don't think, a totally boring race. We are guaranteed, by the looks of it, at least a two-stop race for everyone, given the how soft the tyres are and obviously the tyre wear being quite a lot around this type of racetrack. So strategically should be an interesting race. And then hopefully we do get some overtakes during the race itself. In terms of who wins the race though, very similar to Imola, it is all down to the first lap. If Oscar Piastri, for example, who's on pole, if he can maintain the lead, then Piastri will win this race comfortably. So yeah, we'll see who ends up in the lead at the first after the first couple corners, and we'll see then how the race plays out. But yeah, I think that's how it will be in terms of who wins. Of course, pretty long run down to turn one, and the start here can be very exhilarating at times. For example, look at last year where George Russell started fourth, where he is starting today, went from fourth to first by the exit of turn one. So, yeah, anything is really possible at the start of this Grand Prix. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. But again, no absolute guarantee of a great race. We'll just have to see how things go. Again, strategically, at least, it'll be interesting, given that we'll have at least two pit stops for everybody. So, yeah, we'll see how the race goes. Hope you guys are well, by the way. Hope the weather is all good where you are. And hope, no matter whatever circumstances you're going through, that you're having as best a time as possible in your part of the world. And I hope you can join not just me, but my co-commentator Niblo today in enjoying the Spanish Grand Prix and hopefully watching along if you can. If you can't, then just listen along and we'll keep you absolutely bang up to date. Nib, my co-commentator, as I said, he will be joining me today. Not quite yet, though. Probably will be joining me in about an hour and 20 minutes. As the usual, half an hour before the race begins. And we'll obviously get his thoughts before lights out. So, yeah, that's obviously what we're doing today. And obviously, before we get into the Grand Prix itself, we'll be going through the usual race build-up, going through what happened yesterday, the results, obviously, and then we'll be getting into the data as to why certain teams ended up where they did, the sector time data, speed trap data. We'll also look at the long-run data from Friday practice, just to show over a long run who is looking good and who is not. And then we'll get into my predictions for this race. Of course, right before the race as well, we will get into some, a couple important stats before we get into the race itself. But also, quickly before I get going with this build up to the Grand Prix, there is a poll running in the chat where I've asked you guys simply, who will win today's Spanish Grand Prix? Will it be Oscar Piastri, the man on pole? Or will it be Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, or George Russell? Out of those four, who do you think wins the Spanish Grand Prix? Let me know. And probably about 5 minutes or so before the race begins, I will finish that poll and we'll see who you guys have voted for. But it is not a guarantee, even though McLaren are locking out the front row. Still not a guarantee that McLaren are going to win the race. Because again, two-stop race, you don't know what could happen strategically. And also, at the start, we know that, people on the second row of the grid can just, simply get into the lead. So, yeah, even though McLaren have the front row locked out, it is not quite as simple as it looks. And we'll see what happens after that first corner. But yeah, let's get into the results from qualifying. And yeah, McLaren front row lockout, the first pole position McLaren have had in Spain in a very long, or actually not in a long time. They had pole position in Spain last year, but I think what I was trying to say is it's their first front row lockout in Spain in a very long time. The last time they had a front row lockout in the country of Spain was the 2009 European Grand Prix in Valencia with Hamilton and Kovalainen. The last time they had a front row lockout at this circuit, the Circuit De Catalunya, I believe was the year I was born, 1998, where McLaren that year had just an incredible car. I think that was the last time McLaren locked out the front row here in Spain, and that weekend they went on to get a very easy 1-2 finish. Will that be the same today? We'll have to find out. But Oscar Piastri on pole, what a brilliant lap he did. Lando Norris did not produce his best final attempt, but even if he did, would it have been enough to get pole? I'm not sure it would have. I think Piastri's lap was just too good, and he absolutely deserved to be on pole. The first Australian to get pole position here at this circuit since Mark Webber in 2011. That day, Mark ended up finishing, I think, in fourth place and ended up going down, I think, to third by the end of the first corner. So, yeah, hopefully goes better for Piastri the start than it went for his now manager, Mark Webber. But, yeah, it's been a long time since Australia has had a man on pole here. Webber, though, did win the Spanish Grand Prix from pole the year before in 2010. So it has been done, an Australian winning the Spanish Grand Prix. And we'll see if Piastri can do that today. Lando Norris, second, again, did not produce a good enough final lap to really make it close with Piastri. But even if he did his absolute best final lap, again, not sure it would have been enough anyway, because Piastri's lap was just so good. Max Verstappen third, doing the exact same lap time as George Russell. Incredibly close between Verstappen and Russell, who were both on top form in qualifying yesterday, but unfortunately for both drivers, their cars were just way too slow to be competing with McLaren. McLaren were by far the quickest team in qualifying yesterday. There is no doubt about that. So yeah, Red Bull and Mercedes on the second row of the grid. Not completely, though, out of play are those two teams, again, because if they can have an amazing start to the race, it could really change their fortunes around. So we'll see what happens there. Lewis Hamilton fifth. Probably, if you forget what's happened in sprint qualifying sessions and focus on just the actual proper qualifying sessions, I think that's Lewis Hamilton's best effort in 2025. Yeah, good effort from Hamilton, even though a bit fortunate to out-qualify his teammate because Leclerc only had one new set of soft tyres for Q3, and that's why Leclerc ended up in P7. So Hamilton probably would have ended up sixth if Leclerc had a new set of soft tyres for the final run in Q3. But Ferrari, much better in qualifying than I expected, which is good to see. And there is an outside chance that they could end up on the podium. Not saying they will end up on the podium or that it will, it's going to be close, but it's definitely a possibility. And if they were to get a podium finish, that would be a pretty good result for them, considering the season they've had and considering as well how bad they looked on Friday. So yeah, that would be brilliant if they could get that today. We'll see what they can do. Antonelli sixth, Leclerc seventh. Leclerc, he used two sets of soft tyres in practice 3, thus saving an extra set of mediums, and now has 2 new sets of the medium compound tyres for today's race. So Leclerc definitely will be doing a 2-stop race, because he actually was asked by a journalist after qualifying, what if it's a 1-stop race? And Leclerc's response, well, I really hope not, because we've saved 2 sets of mediums, which absolutely confirms that they are going to do a 2-stop race to maximize, having 2 new sets of the medium compound tyre. So, yeah, Leclerc, watch out for him today. He's definitely someone who will be moving up through the field. Pierre Gasly, 8th. Absolutely brilliant qualifying from him. Same for Isaac Hadjar and even Fernando Alonso. All pretty close to some of the front-running cars ahead of them. But, yeah, all did great laps in Q3. But Gasly ended up winning, say, the midfield fight. So, yeah, brilliant job by him. Again, proving that he is still one of the top midfield drivers in the field. But, yeah, good to see it looking all close there in the midfield between Gasly, Hadjar, and Alonso. And then the rest of the field, Alex Albon 11th. Albon actually did, I would say, the best he could have done in Q2. I don't think Albon could have done any better. The Williams car just has not been quick enough this weekend to be in the top 10, and that's why Albon is in 11th place. Gabriel Bortoleto, one of the best performances in qualifying from the Brazilian. To get 12th place. A very, very good result in that Sauber. The Sauber, to be fair, has definitely been a bit better than I think we expected. Not massively better than expected, but a bit better. But, Bortoleto delivered and continues his good record in qualifying against Nico Hulkenberg. 13th, Liam Lawson. He'll be disappointed with that. Lawson definitely should have been at least 11th in qualifying, given that Hadjar was in the top 10. You could even argue Lawson should have made the top 10, given the pace of the car. 14th, Lance Stroll. Now, Lance Stroll is not racing today because apparently, according to Aston Martin, he has had a pain in his hand/wrist that the medical consultant, I think for Aston Martin, believes is related to the operation he had on his wrist in 2023. Remember where he had that cycling accident and only just about made the start of the season. So, yeah, he's going to be missing the race today because of pain. And apparently will have an operation to correct whatever is going on there. Don't know whether he'll be racing next Grand Prix. Obviously, the next Grand Prix is his home race, so he'd really want to be racing there. But, yeah, not sure if he will. But, yeah, Lance Stroll is not racing today. And the reason no one is replacing him is because after qualifying, you can't replace a driver if they've, I think, already completed Parc Fermé. I think that's what the rule is. So Oliver Behrman will start 14th. Behrman, I thought, did a good job to get into Q2. Doing the best he can, really. That car, not very quick this weekend. But yeah, Behrman 14th. And then it'll be Hulkenberg 15th. Ocon 16th. Carlos Sainz 17th. Carlos was absolutely terrible in qualifying yesterday. Colapinto 18th. Colapinto, we've been very critical of this season. To be fair, yesterday, he was unlucky because he was actually ahead of Gasly going into that final run in Q1 and then clearly had a problem with his car. So Colapinto definitely would have done a bit better yesterday had it not been for that. And then Yuki Tsunoda will be last of all the 19 runners, and Tsunoda will actually be starting from the pit lane. Tsunoda, the reason they're starting from the pit lane is because the Red Bull technical director, Pierre Washer, is it? I don't know if that's how you pronounce his last name, but he has admitted that they made a mistake on the setup of Tsunoda's car and put too much wing on, too much downforce that has cost him time down the straights, and that's why they're now starting from the pit lane to correct his setup and put the proper setup they should have put on originally with his car. So, yeah, we'll see what Tsunoda can do. Tsunoda should finish probably, I don't know, 11th, 12th or something like that. But I think Tsunoda will have to do something quite special to get in the top 10 because that Red Bull car still not that great. And really, with Tsunoda in that car, he's not able, I think, for the position he's going to be starting from, to absolutely get in the points. But yeah, Tsunoda will start from the pit lane for this Grand Prix. But let's now get into the sector time data, just to understand why qualifying ended up the way it did. Sector 1, which is almost entirely flat out, McLaren, by far the quickest in this part of the lap, a tenth quicker than Mercedes, or 0.2 of a second quicker than Red Bull. That is surprising. You would expect Red Bull to have been, through this part of the lap, at least a tenth of a second closer, if not maybe a tenth and a half closer to McLaren. So, yeah, Max, I mean, nothing to do with him, but if Red Bull had been that bit closer, Max would have been on the front row for this Grand Prix, where he very much would have been a lot stronger of a contender, I think, to probably end up as the winner for this Spanish Grand Prix. But yeah, a lot harder it looks to be from third. And then you got Charles Leclerc, fourth for Ferrari, 0.2 of a second off. Even though Ferrari were better in qualifying, this amount of pace in the first sector from them just isn't good enough. Should be at least a tenth better through this part of the lap, but that's the way it is. Williams, pretty good pace, only 0.2 off McLaren, and then Sauber, the next team, who were quite impressive. But we will see in a moment why they were so quick in the first sector. It's to do with their top speed. And then Racing Bulls, Aston Martin, Alpine, and Haas rounding out the field. The first sector, though, is not really that important. I mean, it is from a top speed point of view, and it can definitely indicate good top speed. But yeah, it's not the most important part of the lap for really showing how good your car is. The middle sector is that part of the lap. And McLaren, no surprise, the quickest team, a tenth of a second quicker than Ferrari. And this part of the lap is why Ferrari had a better qualifying than what they were looking like in practice. Because in practice too, they had the 7th best car only in the middle sector. If that happened again yesterday, they probably would have ended up, probably around Gasly in 8th place. But because they were a lot better in the middle sector yesterday compared to practice, that's why they ended up with a decent grid position. Slightly quicker they were compared to Red Bull and Mercedes. Alpine, very impressive pace from them. Their car through the corners has been very, very good this weekend. Same for Racing Bulls. Aston Martin a bit further off than I would have expected. They were very good in this part of the lap in practice, but not so much in qualifying. Alonso, we know, did not do his Q3 lap at the optimum time, but I don't think that explains entirely why he is a tenth and a half slower than Gasly in the middle sector. Sauber, then, quite a big drop-off to Sauber. The Sauber, though, just isn't quick enough through the corners to be anywhere near those, say, top midfield teams, unfortunately. Williams, though, as you can see, absolutely miles off the pace in the middle sector. And this is why Williams are where they are. If they were lapping at about the same pace as, say, Racing Bulls in this part of the lap, Albon would have made Q3 and probably would have ended up, at least in 9th place. But the Williams has been slow in the middle sector all weekend, and that's why they are where they are. Oliver Behrman then last of all for Haas, and Haas continuing that trend in the final sector. Final sector is not massively important. All you've got to do is just make sure you don't make a mistake. Red Bull, though, the quickest team just about compared to McLaren. Mercedes very close. Aston Martin a lot better in this part of the lap. Ferrari giving away a bit too much time in the final sector. Alpine, Racing Bulls looking decent. A bit of a drop off to Williams. Nearly 0.4 of a second off the pace of Red Bull in just the final sector alone. and then Sauber and Haas rounding out the field. Ferrari, though, again, even though they had a better qualifying than I expected, I still think there is more potential in that car. I think, especially with if Leclerc had done his absolute best lap and had an extra set of tyres for the end of Q3, I think Leclerc probably would have ended up third on the grid. So again, I don't think Ferrari quite showed their true potential in qualifying. We'll see today if they can show their true potential in the race. But if I go back to these results from qualifying, the pecking order, I think pretty simple. McLaren are the quickest team. I don't think McLaren, though, are going to be as quick compared to, say, Red Bull and Ferrari as they were in qualifying. I think Red Bull will be slightly closer on lap time than they were in qualifying, and same for Ferrari. I think they'll be quite a bit closer per lap to the McLarens. They'll still be slower. In clean air, the McLaren is still the best car. There is no doubt about that, but I just don't think they'll be as far off. Mercedes are the only front-running team who I think will have a drop-off in pace compared to what they did relative to the other front-running teams in qualifying. So the pecking order for the race, I believe, will be McLaren first, Red Bull second, Ferrari third, Mercedes fourth. Fifth, I'm going to say Aston Martin. I think that Aston Martin definitely's got a bit more pace in it. Sixth, I would say Alpine. Seventh, Racing Bulls. Eighth, Williams. Ninth, Sauber. And then 10th, Haas F1. That's how I believe it will be for the race today. Quickly, though, before I get on to my predictions, a couple more things I just want to go through. The top speeds of all the teams. Now, Mercedes and McLaren were very quick in the first sector, but I'm not sure if that's why. Why they were so quick in the first sector. I'm not sure if it is necessarily down to having a great top speed, because both Russell and Piastri, respectively, were quite a bit quicker down the straights than their teammates were, which indicates to me that those drivers may have got a bit of a slipstream down the pit straight. So, yeah, that's what I am possibly thinking with that. Mercedes do appear to be quicker than McLaren, though, down the straight. Sauber, that's why they were so quick in the first sector, because they've took a bit more wing off, I think, to be quick down the straights. Aston Martin looking pretty decent. Ferrari looking okay. Williams okay. Alpine pretty decent. And then Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. And this is where things get interesting, because normally Red Bull are in the top 2 or 3 in the speed trap. This speed trap data, by the way, is from the speed trap located at the end of the pit straight going into turn 1. And yeah, Red Bull normally are in the top 2 or 3, but this time are one of the slowest teams. And once we look at the race pace data from Friday, I think that Red Bull have put a race setup on Max's car. Now, that doesn't mean Max is going to win or that Red Bull are going to have the best car, but that's why I think Red Bull will be closer to McLaren in the race than they were in qualifying. Not by a massive amount. I don't think, I don't think Red Bull are going to be lapping on the same pace as McLaren. I still think McLaren have got, in clear air, in a race situation, I think they're probably going to have a couple tenths of a second per lap in their pocket over Red Bull. But Red Bull will be closer. I don't have any doubt about that. Haas, okay for their top speed. And then Racing Bulls as well. I'm pretty sure they've gone with a more of a race setup for themselves. So watch out for them in the parts of the track where, obviously, all of the corners are at. And talking of the race pace data, this is the long run data from practice 2. Now, a couple things I need to add some context to this data. A couple of the drivers here did their long runs on the medium compound. Most drivers, though, here in this list, did their long runs on the soft compound tyre. And the medium compound tyre should be the better tyre for the race. So, Max Verstappen, he did the best average lap time of a 1:19.9. He was on the soft tyre and was 0.3 of a second quicker than Lando Norris, also on the soft tyre. Gasly in the Alpine did his on the medium. Leclerc, Ferrari, he did his on the soft. Hulkenberg did his run on the medium. Lawson was on the soft. Russell was on the soft. And then I think Alonso, Albon, and Behrman also were on the soft tyre. Now, if this, data plays out exactly in the race, then we have a race on our hands if Red Bull are truly 0.3 of a second quicker than McLaren. But I don't think that'll be the case. Again, I think Red Bull will be closer to McLaren on pace than they were in qualifying, but I don't think Red Bull are going to be actually quicker. I don't see that being the case. I would be amazed if that was the case, put it that way. But Red Bull, definitely watch out for them. They're not completely out of play for this Grand Prix. And also, watch out for Racing Bulls, who I fancy have a good race pace as well, especially with them, I think, clearly adding a tad more downforce to their car compared to normal. But let's now, as we've got just over an hour to go, or an hour and a half, to go until the race begins. Let me get on to my final race prediction, and here it is. Oscar Piastri, I think, wins the race by about 10 seconds from Max Verstappen, who I think just about will beat Lando Norris to second. And then, it'll be Norris in third. Leclerc will utilise his 2 new sets of mediums to finish in fourth. Russell fifth. Hamilton sixth. Antonelli seventh. Alonso will finish in eighth, with Gasly ninth and Isaac Hadjar just behind in P10. Sorry for the silence there, just need to clear my throat. With Max Verstappen finishing second, the reason I think he'll finish second is because he will, absolutely guaranteed, he will overtake one of the McLarens at the first corner. I don't think he'll overtake both of them, even though that would be absolutely amazing if he was to replicate basically what he did at Imola. But I don't think he will. I think he'll pass Norris, get second, and then control that fight for second and end up finishing in second, because I don't think Norris has what it takes to get second from Verstappen if that scenario does play out. So, that's why I think Verstappen will finish in second. And then with Leclerc, him having 2 new sets of mediums, I think will be the key in eventually getting him up to fourth. But I think Ferrari ultimately don't have quite the track position to get on the podium. I think they're going to need some fortune to get on the podium today. Maybe a couple DNFs or a couple drivers maybe getting held up in traffic whilst they're in clean air. Some fortune I think needs to go their way if they're going to get on the podium today. If Leclerc had qualified in, say, 5th or 4th place, I think Leclerc would have a decent chance of finishing on the podium. But Leclerc, I think, is Ferrari's best bet today. And he's starting in 7th place. So, that's an issue for the Scuderia. But they'll still get a decent result. 4th and 6th would be, again, decent considering the car they've got. And we'll see how it plays out for them. But that's how I think the race will go. Let me know in the live chat or in the poll running in the chat. What do you think, guys, is going to happen in this race? Who do you think wins? Is it Piastri? Will it be Norris, Verstappen, or even maybe Russell, or even a Ferrari win today? Let me know in the chat, as we've got an hour and a half to go until the race begins in Spain. Let me just quickly get rid of that guy in the chat. By the way, for everyone watching, make sure to smash the like button if you haven't already. We're on 11 likes. Let's try and get up to 20 plus likes if we can in the next 20 minutes or so. That'd be great if we could do that. One thing, though, I want to quickly go on to is just going through what Pirelli have said is the best race strategy for today. So, according to Pirelli, it will be, at the very least, a two-stop race. Here are the two-stop options. You can either start on the soft compound tyre, pit between lap 13 and 19, go onto a set of mediums, and then pit again between lap 42 and 48, and then finish the race on a set of softs. Or you could start the race on soft tyres, pit a slight bit earlier between lap 10 and 16, go onto a set of mediums, pit quite a bit earlier between lap 32 and 38, and then finish the race on hard tyres. There's another option. You could pit between lap 12 and 18 for your first stop if you start the soft compound tyre. Then go on to a set of mediums, pit again between lap 36 and 42 to go on to another set of mediums to finish the race. And then there's a fourth two-stop option, which is start on the medium, pit between lap 16 and 22, go on to a set of hard tyres, pit between lap 47 and 53, and then be very quick at the end on the soft tyres. Now, there's plenty of options there from Pirelli of, starting on the soft compound tyre. I personally, though, don't think that is necessarily going to be the case for most of the field in terms of starting on the soft tyre. Just want to go through, though, quickly who has what new sets of tyres. Oscar Piastri has a new set of all three compounds. Same for Lando Norris. Leclerc has a one new set of hard tyres and two new sets of mediums. So Leclerc, I think, definitely will start the race on the medium and then probably go on to a set of hard tyres for the middle stint so he can make sure to be quick at the end. Hamilton has one new set of hards and mediums, same, or not the same for Verstappen. Verstappen has one new set of all the compounds, same for Russell. Antonelli only has one new set of mediums and hards. So, yeah, we'll see who goes for what. But, yeah, I think looking at the drivers that have got one new set of all three compounds, I think it is probably likely that those drivers will use the soft compound tyre twice, once to start on and then once again to maybe finish on or do the second stint of the race. For Charles Leclerc, though, again, he will be on definitely a different strategy. It's very likely, looking at these tyres here, very likely that you'll get the top 10 on the soft tyre except for Leclerc to start the race. So, yeah, it'd be very interesting to see if that is the case, how Leclerc's pace is compared to the rest of the field of the medium. You'd think it would be good, given that it's not a slow tyre necessarily, but it does obviously wear out a bit less than the soft compound. And remember, the three compounds here are the three hardest compounds Pirelli have: the C3, the C2, and the C1. So, yeah. Very interested to see strategically what Leclerc will do in the Ferrari. I think I'll have a think about it before I say what strategy I think Ferrari should go for. But yeah, what do you call it? When we get on to rounding up the teams before I bring Nib on, I'll go through the, I think, strategic options that I think will be there for the front-running teams, because it's going to be, again, very interesting on strategy to see what certain teams will do. By the way, conditions for the race, 30 degrees Celsius, it's not going to rain. There is, though, a wind gust possibility up to 40 kilometers an hour, so it's not going to be the easiest conditions with the wind there, but it should be fine, honestly, for the drivers, given how skilled they are. But, right, let me get rid of this guy. Oh, there, Rooks has got rid of him. Right, I think now, for the next, say, 30, 40 minutes, let's go on to your comments in the chat. Again, let me know, what do you think is going to happen in the race today? Who do you think is going to win? Get on the podium? Just give me your thoughts ahead of this race. Let me just have a quick drink, though, to just make sure my throat's in decent condition. As the Sky F1 coverage has just begun. And yeah, looking glorious at the Circuit De Catalunya track. And I got to say, I know there's going to be a Spanish Grand Prix at Madrid. Is it next year or the year after? And they're going to be alternating between this Grand Prix and Madrid. If you ever can, though, go to the Circuit de Catalunya for a Spanish Grand Prix. Definitely do it. Atmosphere's great. Weather's great. Plenty of great vantage points. And as well, the pricing, compared to a lot of other Grand Prix, is actually pretty decent. So, yeah, if you want to go to a Spanish or go to a Grand Prix in Formula One, Spanish Grand Prix is definitely one that you should consider. I say this as someone who went to the Spanish Grand Prix 11 years ago and went to testing in 2019, all 4 days of the second test. So, yeah, it is a great track. It really is. And, of course, they've made it a bit better for racing since I last went there. Anyway, let's go through your comments. Count Blah saying, Shazza, wrenching in the garage, nice to have you for auditory company. No problem. Hope you're well. Hello to Astro as well. Ken Wallace says Red Bull are the second best team. I agree. Astro gives his prediction. Piastri to win over Norris. Hamilton on the podium with Russell 4th, Leclerc 5th, Antonelli 6th. Hello to Todd. Good to see you. Herman asks, won't Bottas be reserved for Aston because he is able due to the Mercedes deal? Possibly, but the reason no one could replace Stroll for this Grand Prix is because Lance already qualified. The rules state that if you qualify, then you can't be replaced after that point. Aston Martin, though, have said that if Lance can't race in 2 weeks in Canada, that Felipe Drugovich will take his place, which is a good situation for Felipe, because even if he can't race in Canada, Felipe, and Stroll is able to recover, Felipe is committed, I think, to racing at the 24-hour Le Mans race, which I think is the same weekend. So at least Felipe will have something to do that weekend. But I'm sure he would prefer to be in the car, the Aston Martin car, because I know he's been desperate to have a chance to show what he thinks he can do in Formula One. So, yeah, that's what Aston Martin have said. Sarah Gara says Verstappen to win from Piastri, Leclerc, Hamilton, Norris, and Russell. Dane says, I do think Lando wins. I don't know why. At one point, I would make a temporary alliance with McLaren drivers throughout this season. I don't think you can do that really at all at the moment. I think you're going to have to wait until probably the last quarter of the season at the earliest to start talking about alliances and helping one another out, because it's going to be close in the championship between those two McLaren drivers, probably until the very least the last, say, 5-6 races of the season. So yeah, but I mean, we'll see. We'll see how things go. But one thing I will say in regards to this Grand Prix is for the top three, Piastri, Norris, and Verstappen, which is, funnily enough, the top three of the Drivers' Championship in that order. This is why the start of the race is so important today, because all three of those drivers really have to win this race for the championship. I think Piastri, if he wins this race, he would be the biggest gainer in the championship from the other three in the battle, because Piastri would not only keep the lead of the championship, he would take his, what would it be? 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be his fifth win of the season. When obviously Verstappen has 2 wins, Lando has 2 wins, and that would keep him comfortably clear in terms of race wins ahead of his 2 rivals. I remember what I said. Normally, if you have the most wins in a Formula 1 season, normally you end up winning the championship. So that's what Piastri really needs to concentrate on doing. It's just making sure he has the most wins at the end of the year. And then if he doesn't win the championship, then fair enough. But if he has the most wins, he will be very likely to be champion. So yeah, Piastri, I think, if I had to pick who out of the top 3 most needs this win for the championship, I'd have to say Piastri. But again, Norris and Verstappen also really do need to win this race. Especially, I mean, from Lando Norris's point of view, needs to try and keep up the confidence from his brilliant win in Monaco. And for Max Verstappen, of course, with what I said about the most wins normally in a season ends up, with you being the champion, Max cannot afford for Piastri to get too far away to the point where Max, has to then produce absolutely amazing performance in the second half of the season to try and win the championship. But Max Verstappen, even though the McLaren is quicker in clear air, Max Verstappen absolutely can win the race today. Do not doubt Max Verstappen, as we saw at Imola. What he did there was amazing, quite frankly. So, again, do not doubt Verstappen and his ability to somehow win races that really he has no right to win. The Japanese Grand Prix being another one of those. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But again, this is a crucial race in the World Championship fight. No doubt about it. As on Sky F1, we're just seeing a head-to-head comparison of Norris and Piastri's lap. And yeah, Lando, really, on his final lap, he lost the time really in the middle sector compared to his teammate. Astro saying Alpine could maybe loan Doohan to Aston Martin. Be interesting to see Jack drive that green tractor instead of the pink and blue one. There's no way that's going to happen, because Aston Martin do have quite a few drivers in their system who would be able to take the place of Stroll. But what do you call it? I think Stroll will be back for the Canadian Grand Prix. Todd asks, do you think the new technical directive will be more evident on long runs? No, I think the technical directive would have already shown. If it was having any effect, it would have already shown itself at this point. And it's shown nothing. If we're being frank, it's shown absolutely nothing. And I knew, to be honest, it was not going to do anything because people, and, we have to accept that a lot of these people saying these things are fans of the other teams and other drivers, but there's a lot of people in the F1 community who do support, say, Ferrari and Mercedes and Red Bull or Max and Leclerc and these drivers who could not accept that McLaren had the best car. It's the same thing with last year. Constant accusations about McLaren having an illegal car, when in reality they just had the best car. But people could not accept it, which is why there was all this hype about this technical directive. Oh, this is what's going to peg McLaren back. And McLaren were even better yesterday than they looked before the technical directive. So, and then, we had Frederick Vasseur, the team boss of Ferrari, basically bullshitting in the media about how he thinks McLaren will have the most to lose and Ferrari the most to gain from the technical directive. And if you look at the technical directive, what the result of it's been, again, McLaren looks stronger than they were before. So it's just absolute copium. The people that were hoping this technical directive was going to change anything. McLaren genuinely have the best car on the grid. People just need to accept it. They've not done anything illegal. They just have the best technical department on the grid. And that's why they've got the best car. They're going to win the Constructors' Championship for the second year in a row. And possibly the Drivers' Championship as well. Cam Wallace says if both McLarens don't shut Max out of turn 1, then I would come down on them like a ton of bricks if I was Zach. Well, Oscar Piastri, I think, is the person we really need to look out for because, of course, he got mugged at Imola by Verstappen. Piastri was way too safe, and Max went right round the outside of him and, mugged him straight off. Let's see if Oscar will learn from that. All he has to do sounds simple, but it's not. But he needs to take authority in that first corner and really stamp his authority on the first corner. Make sure it's his if he is clearly ahead going into the first corner. That's what he needs to do. When at Imola, I don't think he thought Max or anyone would try that move, and that's why he was being, I think, way too safe just to make sure he was going to be leading, and then suddenly Verstappen came out of nowhere. Max, you can guarantee, if he's got that outside line, and it's a clear outside line going into turn 1, he will send it, regardless of who's alongside him. Because Verstappen knows that if he's going to win today, he has to be in the lead, really, by the end of the first couple corners. If Max is not in the lead by the end of the first couple corners, Max is not going to win the race today. And he knows that. He knew that at Imola. That's why he went for that move. So, yeah, that's why the start of this race is going to be incredibly interesting. Dane saying maybe the complaint was where also for Russell and Hamilton fans because they were like, how is Max the only non-McLaren driver winner? Well, two reasons for that. One, Max Verstappen is the best driver on the grid, but also the races where Max has won, the Red Bull car has been close enough to, interrupt the McLarens. Let's just say that. So, that's just the way it's been. I mean, if we look at Mercedes, the only races where they were able to get at their closest to McLaren were Shanghai and Bahrain. And even then, they still weren't really close enough. So, yeah. As Sam in the chat saying I can see an incident happening at the start between the leaders. Hopefully not, but we have had plenty of incidents at the first couple corners here before. Normally, though, it happens in the midfield. We'll get incidents and crashes. It's very rarely. I mean, yeah, we had the Hamilton and Rosberg thing, but that was at turn 4. And that was an incredibly surprising incident in terms of just the way it happened. It wasn't. We've never seen an accident like it before at that corner or since. It was very unique the way that all happened. But yeah, normally the cars in the middle of the pack are normally the ones that what do you call it, that end up crashing. Rook's asking, do we have a Nib commentating today? Yep, he will be on in probably about 30 to 40 minutes. He'll be joining us. I know he's absolutely keen for this race, obviously with his man on pole, and he's desperate for a boring Piastri win. Ken Waller says, I would push Max wide like what he does. It's easy. I think the problem with, when you're racing Max at, say, into the first corner on the first lap is letting him get into your head. You just need to forget about him and just do the start properly as you would normally, and not start doing unusual things that you wouldn't normally do to cover Max Verstappen. If Max barely gets into lead at the first corner, fair play. But, they just need to, McLarens, they just need to treat the first corner as they normally would. And they, should get through okay. Any chance of rain? No chance of rain. Let's see if there's any other comments I can find here. Serragara saying Verstappen is pretty good around here. His first win, obviously, was here in the last 3 Spanish Grand Prix. He has won, exactly. 4 wins Verstappen has at this circuit. And like you said, he's won the last 3 here. And what's been impressive is not all those wins were comfortable. The 2023 one was. 2022, though, had issues with his car. And had to do some overtaking to get that win. And then 2024 last year, I don't think he had the fastest car, really, in that weekend, but he produced the goods at the first corner, and then I think end of lap 2, passed Russell for the lead, and then was able to secure victory. Todd asking, Yuki starting in the pits. Yep. Tsunoda will start from the pit lane, again, because he had the incorrect setup put on his car. So they'll put the right setup on and he'll start from the pit lane, and hopefully he comes back through and has a good race. As the England national football team have arrived at the Grand Prix. The reason they're at this Grand Prix is because they are playing a game against Andorra, which is, I think, being played in Barcelona or somewhere in that area. So that's why they're coming to the Grand Prix. Obviously, England lost to Spain, didn't they, in the Euros final in Berlin last summer, which, to be honest, I wasn't even that disappointed with it because I knew we were going to lose. We were so lucky to even get to the final. We were lucky to even get to the quarterfinals. We were so bad in that Euros last summer. And as well, that Euros final, I was asleep for most of the game because I'd been awake for absolutely hours upon hours before the game, and so I missed most of it anyway. But yeah, that that run in the Euros last summer for England was so bad, and eventually I did fall in love with the run purely because of how bigger, how just like shithousery it was in terms of how we got to the final. With some luck here, penalty shootout win there, and stuff like that. So as now Sky doing a piece with Nico Rosberg on teammate collisions, which he knows so much about. It is mental that, and obviously they've been playing it on Sky F1 all weekend because Rosberg is there at the Grand Prix. The crash with Hamilton at the start of this race back in 2016. It's amazing that was almost 10 years ago. I remember exactly where I was when I was watching that Grand Prix, and that was one of the just amazing, oh my god moments of that season and of that time. And yeah, it was quite incredible. And then obviously what followed was Max Verstappen at 18 years old taking his first win, which nobody saw coming. I remember that was Max's first race in the Red Bull after Daniel Kvyat had been dropped harshly from the team the race before. So yeah, just an incredible time. And yeah, it is amazing that was 9 years ago. Feels like it was only maybe 5-6 years. But yeah, incredible. Sarah Garra says Southgate did well with that team, to be fair. He did not. He did not. The reason we got to the final was because of the players. It wasn't because of him. He was the person holding that team back with his absolutely caveman tactics. He didn't even have tactics. His tactical approach was as bad as Roy Hodgson in was it Euro 2016. The difference is in Euro 2024 we had such a better team compared to Euro 2016 that we didn't end up getting embarrassed by Iceland. But remember, we were, I think, seconds away from being knocked out by Slovakia. Fucking Slovakia. And then Bellingham produced one of the greatest moments in the history of the England national team. I still can't believe he pulled that off, that overhead kick. And then that was really the catalyst for us getting then to the final, because that defeat, if we had gone out to Slovakia, that would have been one of the worst defeats in the history of the national team, especially given the talent of the team. Would have been arguably as bad, if not worse, than the Iceland defeat, again, because of the talent of the team. So yeah, that England, like I said, were absolutely rubbish in that Euros last summer. And hopefully now with a new manager, for the next year's World Cup, we can perform to standard. Yeah, Rook saying apologies to any Slovak viewers. I felt sorry for the Slovak team because they did everything they could. They left it all out there, as we say. And then just a moment of absolute brilliance, equalized us back into the game, if that makes any sense. And then once we scored that, there was no doubt we were going to win because of the change in momentum. Momentum is one of the biggest things in sport. If you have it on your side, you can do incredible things. So yeah, I really did feel sorry for them, because that would have been absolutely massive for them. Herman the Tosser asking, was the last Luxembourg Grand Prix 97 or 98? It was 98. Yeah, it was 98. And obviously both Luxembourg races were at the Nürburgring. Obviously you can't hold a race in Luxembourg because I don't think there's any racetracks in that tiny country. As I think Astro earlier said, also Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, and Vatican City need F1 rounds too. Do not give Liberty Media ideas. We do not want to be anywhere near places like that for an F1 race. Let me just find a couple more comments, and then I think we'll do a quick roundup of the teams and go through, as I said earlier, the strategy options for the teams. As we've got just under 1 hour to go now until the race begins. Astro earlier saying Max intimidates others. They should hold their ground, and even if it causes a crash, it should hopefully cause Max to not bully them and show better respect in driving. Take note, Lando. Well, Max Verstappen, in terms of his racecraft, it's very similar to Michael Schumacher. Not in terms of deliberately crashing. I don't think Verstappen has necessarily gone to that level. But, that type of racecraft originated with Ayrton Senna in the late, 80s and obviously the 90s. And what Senna would do, there was a great piece on this that Top Gear did. And the reason they did this was because the Senna film came out at the time. This would have been about 15 years ago now. And Martin Brundle explained that Senna, because obviously Brundle had a really big championship fight was it F3 with Senna in 1983? He explained that Senna would deliberately put his front tyre on the inside of your back wheel deliberately to then leave it up to you to whether you had an accident or not. And if you didn't, then, as Brundle explained, you were mentally finished, because then you would just jump out of the way any time that Senna put his car in a position to overtake. That's basically what Max does. He puts his car in positions where you either have to crash with him or let him go. And if you let him go, or if you keep ahead but you don't turn into the corner as you would, and you leave the space in a way that negatively affects your line or your exit from a corner, then again, mentally, Max knows you'll finish, because he knows if he sends it at a corner that you'll just jump out of the way and give him the space. The only driver I've seen which understood this and combated it, I wouldn't say well, but did the best he could, was Lewis Hamilton. Where at Monza, when they had that accident at the chicane, the first chicane, that's why that accident happened. Because Max deliberately sent his car around the outside, fully committed himself to the inside line for the second part of the chicane, was not going to give way. And Lewis knew that if he let Max through, that he was finished, especially for that race. So Lewis deliberately did not give him any room. Max obviously wasn't going to give any room either, and that's why they had a collision, because both of them would not give each other any room, and then they collided. And from then on, I think Lewis had better luck against Max in wheel-to-wheel combat after that, because Max, I think, after that point, knew that Lewis was not just going to jump out of the way if Max went for a aggressive move, around the outside or up the inside. So that is what you have to do. You have to match Max's energy, I guess you could say. And if it results in a crash, it results in a crash. But it at least makes Max think differently if he is going to try and overtake you. Because if you just constantly, leave him too much space and jump out of the way when he goes for an aggressive move, then Max will always just go for an aggressive move on you because he knows again that you're just going to jump out of the way for him. So we'll see if anyone else can stand up to that challenge. Looney Classics, good to see you. Says, I don't think Max and Michael could have done those tactics in the 70s and 80s because drivers back then would get beat up for stupid moves. You say that, but Senna was doing, some dirty stuff in the 80s and he got away with it physically. So, I mean, in the 80s, I think they could have got away with it. Probably not in the 70s, but yeah. I think, Ayrton Senna was an amazing driver, but I think Senna also created a problem that we're seeing to this day of certain drivers that will just commit to overtakes purely to send a message and to stamp their authority, regardless of whether it's in keeping within the regulations or stuff like that. I mean, we saw it with Alex Dunn in Formula 2 in Monaco. Alex Dunn tried to do the exact same thing that Senna would do. Put his inside wheel on the inside of the back wheel of the driver ahead. He tried that, but Martins turned in, as he should have done, because Dunn had no right to be there, and then they had a crash. So that was actually good from Martins, because now in the future, it will make Alex think a bit more about how he should overtake, especially Martins in the future. When if Martins had jumped out of the way, then mentally would have crumbled at that point. Anyway, I think keep your comments coming. I will come back to you guys in the chat in probably a few minutes time. Make sure as well to smash a like button if you haven't already. Let's try and get up to 25 likes if we can. And I'll just hide the countdown quickly and we'll just go through some of the teams. So McLaren locking out the front row. The start is crucial for them. We have to say this. No matter what strategy they go for, if they have a horrible start, their race will be severely compromised. But if they get away and they are 1 and 2 at the end of the first lap, it makes the race a lot easier for them, because if they are first and second at the end of lap 1, I think they can just do a basic 2-stop strategy and get away with finishing first and second. I don't think they'll be punished by Verstappen or a Russell or a Ferrari, going for an undercut or anything like that, because I think McLaren will have just too much pace to be in trouble from an undercut. So, the start is absolutely crucial for McLaren. If Oscar Piastri, though, can maintain the lead, then I think he will do just a basic 2-stop race. Piastri, I think, will start on the soft compound tyre and probably pit. When will Piastri pit? I think probably around lap 15, 16, I think is when you'll see Oscar Piastri come in for his first pit stop. I think that's realistically when that's going to happen. One thing he will be doing, and McLaren will be doing, is waiting for Gasly, Hadjar, and Alonso in 8th, 9th, and 10th to pit. If they pit, say between lap 10 and 15, then I think that makes McLaren's job a lot easier, because that's if Piastri is leading, that's the only thing they want to avoid, is him coming out in midfield traffic. For Lando Norris, if he is behind Verstappen at the start, then simply they just need to try and undercut him past Verstappen. He should have enough pace to keep close to Verstappen to the point where he could go for an undercut. We just have to see whether he can keep up that pace. But yeah, McLaren, if they are first or first and second, I think their first pit stops will probably be lap 15, 16, maybe lap 17 at the latest. For Red Bull, again, all comes down to the start. If Max wants to win this race, he has to be in the lead at the end of the first lap. No doubt about it. Even if he gets second, I don't see him keeping up with whoever the leading McLaren is. I just don't see that happening at all, because the Red Bull in clear air, I don't think can keep up with, say, the McLaren of Oscar Piastri. I just don't think that is the case. But if Verstappen does get into the lead somehow at the first corner, then all he has to do, simple as it sounds, is cover off what McLaren do and make sure, obviously, if Max can, keep a couple seconds or so ahead so that he can cover off the McLarens. But that's all he can do, really, if he does get into the lead. But if he is in second or even third, then I think he's probably just going to copy what McLaren do on strategy, and again, pit probably around lap 15, 16 for his first stop, and then do a typical two-stop race. But again, his race all comes down to the first corner. For Yuki Tsunoda, watch out for Tsunoda, because he has plenty of tyres available. 3 new sets of mediums, I think I saw that he has. So Tsunoda, I think, will probably... Well, I'm not sure he'll start on the medium. I think he could start on the hard tyre just to get rid of that compound. And if he does start on the hard tyre, Tsunoda probably would do well to go, say, 25, 30 laps into the race before he makes his first pit stop, so that he can then be nice and fast and fresh for the rest of the Grand Prix. But yeah, for Max and Red Bull, it's all down to the start. For Ferrari, all eyes on Charles Leclerc, who is certain, I think, to start on the medium compound tyre. And this is what I would do if I was Ferrari with Leclerc. Starting on the medium, and I would go until about lap 25 until I made my first pit stop. Which, funnily enough, I rewatched last year's Spanish Grand Prix a few days ago. And Leclerc, on the soft tyre, actually did go until lap, I think, 24 before he pitted. In that race, he did finish 5th, but he had a lot of pace in the second half of that race, and was actually unfortunate, in a way, that he ended up, not getting maybe onto the podium, because he just didn't quite have enough time left to get on the podium, despite having really strong pace. So that's what I would do. Pit Leclerc on lap 25, then go on to a set of hard tyres, and then I would probably get rid of those hard tyres a bit earlier than you would probably want to go on that compound. Say, pit him again on lap, say, 45, and then you can do 20 laps to the end on a set of mediums. That's what I would do, personally, with Leclerc. And then we'll see whether that can work out for him, the 2 new sets of medium strategy that he has gone for. Again, he is strategically the one to watch out for out of the top 7 in this Grand Prix today. For Mercedes, I don't really see what they can do today. I don't think they're going to have that great a pace. I think that personally, they will be the slowest out of the front 4 teams. The only thing they can do is just react to the others around them. Maybe with Antonelli, they could go a bit longer into the race. But if Antonelli does go longer into the race, I'm not sure if that actually would pay off for him. So, yeah, I think Mercedes are probably just going to do a basic 2-stop strategy and pretty much do what everyone else is going to do. So, yeah, we'll see how they do. But I don't have a good feeling about Mercedes' race today. Aston Martin, I've got Fernando Alonso in P10. I think all it comes down to for Aston Martin is, can Alonso have the pace on track to overtake Hadjar and Gasly? I think he can. And if he does, great. He should then finish in 8th place. But will bad luck strike again? I hope I've not jinxed him, because I really hope he can finally get off the mark and score some points. Something he should have done last week or even the week before at Imola. Gasly starting 8th for Alpine. Looking very good in the Alpine is Pierre Gasly. Again, likely, I think, to pit around, I don't know, lap 14, 15 probably for the first pit stop. The only thing, though, is if he isn't a million miles away from the front-running cars of, say, the Mercedes and the Ferrari cars ahead, maybe Gasly will decide to go a bit longer into the race to maybe try and get into that fight somehow with fresher tyres later on. Depends, though, if he can keep close, but I'm not sure he can. So, again, typically he'll pit, I think, around lap 15-ish. But, yeah, Gasly looking good for the race. The Alpine looking good as well. Haas do tend to have good race pace, but I think they'll have to do something quite incredible to get the points today, given how slow they've been this weekend. Behrman 14th, Ocon 16th on the grid. Racing Bulls once again have a car in the top 10, and once again, it is Isaac Hadjar having a great season, and I hope he can finish in the top 10 because he's had another great weekend. He is starting P9. Not going to be easy race for him, given that Gasly and Alonso looking so quick in their respective cars. But I'm pretty sure, as long as Racing Bulls don't mess up his strategy, I don't see why he can't finish in the top 10. The car's quick enough, he's quick enough. It's all down to him delivering the result. Now, Williams strategically do tend to run a bit longer into races before making their first pit stop. Alex Albon has been someone to do that quite a lot this season. But, of course, Williams are quite a bit slower this weekend than they've been really at any point in 2025. Albon, though, I think will go... I don't think he's going to go super long into the race. I think he'll probably go until about lap 20, maybe lap 21, 22 before he pits. I think really that's the only thing Albon and Williams can do to finish in the points is go a few laps longer than Alonso, Gasly and Hadjar and then have fresher tyres for the end of the race. If they do that, it might pay off for them and pay them back. For Carlos Sainz, I think he is going to have to go quite long into this race. I think Carlos is probably going to have to do... how many laps? Probably at least 25 laps, maybe even 27 or 28 laps before he makes his first stop. Again, if he's going to get himself into the action somehow. So yeah, watch out for Williams. They will definitely go a bit longer, quite a bit longer than I think most midfield teams. And then Sauber, they've got Gabriel Bortoleto in 12th. Really hope Bortoleto can have a good race today. He's not really figured out the races so far in terms of having a good race so far. He's been good in qualifying. The races, though, have not come to him. So hopefully it does today. But a quick reminder, here is my race prediction. I think Oscar Piastri will win the Spanish Grand Prix by 10 seconds from Max Verstappen 2nd, Norris 3rd, Leclerc 4th, Russell 5th, Hamilton 6th, Antonelli 7th, Alonso 8th, Gasly 9th, and Isaac Hadjar in 10th. So there is my prediction, guys, and I'll get the timer back on screen in about a few seconds or so. I'll wait for the next minute to tick over, as we've got about 40 minutes remaining until lights out in Barcelona. And in about 10 minutes or so, I will be bringing my co-commentator for today on Iniblo to get his thoughts ahead of the race. But as usual, if you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, don't forget to smash the like button. It does help the channel grow and also shows me you guys like the content. And, of course, there is a poll running in the chat. let me know, out of those 4 driver options, who do you think wins the Spanish Grand Prix out of Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, Max Verstappen, and George Russell? As there you go. 40 minutes to go until lights out. Looney Classics says, I think Michael was worse than Max, and that's why I just can't put him in my top 5. He was too dirty, but nobody talks about it because of his current situation. No, I agree, and I mean, I've talked about it despite what happened to him, after his career finally ended. It definitely ranks against him, but I wouldn't put him outside of my top 5 for that, because I think he was still just so great that he should be, in the top 5, absolutely. But yeah, it definitely hurts his case compared to, say, Senna, even, never mind Lewis Hamilton. Even though Senna, deliberately crashed into another driver, he didn't do it as often as Michael did. Herman says Piastri is the new rising number 1 of Formula 1. One wonders, would Oscar would have won that one in round 1? Absolutely brilliant meme. If you haven't seen, make sure to Google Juan Pablo Montoya press conference, and then, I don't know, put in Formula 1 with it as well, because it is absolutely brilliant. Herman predicting Alonso DNF for this race. Again, let's not tempt fate. The guy needs a break at some point, and let's hope it comes today at his home Grand Prix. Also, another thing I wanted to just quickly get into is my plan, content-wise, for the next couple of weeks. Because, of course, this is the last Grand Prix of a triple header. We've been quite busy in these last couple of weeks. And yeah, I just want to quickly inform you guys as to what the plan on the channel is between now and the Canadian Grand Prix. So tomorrow there will be a podcast reviewing this Grand Prix. I'll upload that probably in the afternoon. And then there will be at least one video coming out between the Spanish and Canadian Grand Prix. Don't know what that video is going to be yet. Depends really on what happens today quite a bit. So yeah, we'll see what happens here, and then I'll come up with what that video will be. So yeah, there will be a video. Probably won't come out though until the Monday of the Canadian Grand Prix. As in, it'd be probably 8 days from now. So what would be like the 9th of June, I think, or something like that. And then there might possibly be another recorded video coming out in between the this Grand Prix and the Canadian Grand Prix. We'll have to see though, no guarantee. But then, obviously, in 2 weeks will be the Canadian Grand Prix, and just to announce officially, I will be doing both a qualifying and race watch along for the Canadian Grand Prix. And then obviously the day after the Canadian Grand Prix, there'll be a podcast reviewing the events of the Canadian Grand Prix. My co-commentator Niblo, who will be joining us in a few minutes, I don't know if he'll be on for that stream because it is very difficult timing for him. He has said he will try, but no guarantees. So we'll see. But yeah, that is the plan between now and the Canadian Grand Prix, or the end of the Canadian Grand Prix weekend. Let me find some other comments here if I can. Todd asking how many points did Max lose in that sprint race with the 10-second penalty? I think you're talking about the Miami Grand Prix, I'm assuming. He would have lost. Would he have lost any points? I can't remember exactly where he finished. Let me check. So yeah, he wasn't in the points anyway. Was Max? Um. Oh no, he was in the points. Yeah, he finished fourth. Okay. Sorry, for some reason I thought it was a 5 second penalty. No, it was a 10 second penalty. So yeah, 5 points is what he would have had. So he, instead of being 25 points behind, he would be 20 points behind Piastri right now. Those 5 points might be crucial at the end of the season. I'll have to see. And yeah, Nib saying 4 a.m. for Canada might be a stretch. Indeed. Astro asking, reckon Bortoleto could get points today? Probably not, because I don't think the car is quick enough anyway. I think if he finishes, though, in the top, 12, 13, I think that's a good enough result. I don't think the Sauber's got better, but it is not at the level yet where you could be expecting it to be maybe getting a point. I don't think it's at that level. Yeah, unfortunate, but that's just reality, I'm afraid. But let me read a couple more comments and then I will bring Nib on. One thing I do need to do, which I'll do in a minute, is post the link of the stream out one final time. Let me just scroll up a bit. Rooks in the chat saying 38% chance of safety car and that's since 2017. And also pit lane loss 22 seconds, VSC 12 and a half. Yeah, it thankfully doesn't cost a ton of time here to make a pit stop, which I think does help us have a two-stop race. Obviously, that's a great thing about the next Grand Prix in Canada, is the pit lane loss there is the shortest of any Grand Prix. Todd saying, watch Russell in the start. Absolutely. Remember, guys, George Russell started exactly where he's starting today when he last year went from fourth to first in one of the best starts we've ever seen at the Spanish Grand Prix. Not quite still for me as good as the Alonso start in 2011 or 2013, but it was special and reinforced why Russell is one of the best on the grid. Still, though, even though Russell had that amazing start, in the end, Russell only finished fourth. So it shows that even if you have an amazing start, it doesn't actually mean that you're going to turn that into a great race result. Alonso, for example, in 2011 had that amazing start, fourth to first. He ended up finishing the race fifth and a lap down. So again, it doesn't mean that you're going to win necessarily. Herman says Verstappen will take the lead. McLaren drivers will probably have naff starts. To be fair, this season, McLaren have actually been pretty good at the start. I mean, obviously, Imola Max did what he did, but other than that, I can't remember McLaren really being that bad at all at the start of a race. So, they do tend to get away from the line pretty well. Is the point I'm trying to make. But I think I will now post a link of the stream out and bring Nib on. So, obviously, cheers for your comments. Keep them coming. I will read a few more out before we get to the race itself. Let me just post this out. Come join us here to watch along the Spanish GP in Barcelona. There you go. So we'll see if we get any extra people hopping on board. So, yeah, let me just do adjust a couple things, and then we will bring on Nib, who again is pumped for this race because obviously Piastri is on pole for this crucial race for the championship. So let me just, let's just adjust a couple things. And open up Discord. Right, are you there?
Hello.
Yeah, loud and clear. How are you?
I am pretty good. How are you?
Pretty knackered, but looking forward to this race and hopefully a really fun start like last year. Yeah.
No, we want a boring start.
Yeah. Yeah. What obviously with Piat, I know obviously you're super happy with Oscar, but would you with yesterday's lap, would you say that was the best of his season so far, given that he just absolutely nailed it? Because some of his pole laps this year have been good, but he hasn't. I don't think he's nailed it quite like he did yesterday.
Yesterday, geez, that's a good one. I'm not too sure. I mean, it was very good. I mean, Rosberg noted it uh, during the laps that um, Piastri was just driving absolutely perfectly, whereas Norris was trying to overdrive the car and end up costing him time. And yeah, no, it was just an awesome lap by Oscar. 2/10 on Lando's head. Um, very very pleased. Um, but yeah, definitely one of his best laps this season. I don't know if it's his best, but it's right up there.
Yeah, personally, I think it was his best, especially around a track that is very, I know, challenging for the drivers. Um, and obviously with the start, obviously, this race, similar to Imola, it really does come down to the start as to who's going to win this race. What type of approach do you expect from Oscar this time around compared to what we saw at Imola?
Well, he's not going to make the same mistake again. There's no way. Um, as I said to you last night, as long as he doesn't have a start like his manager famously did about every single race and leave the handbrake on, um, he'll take the inside and make sure to cover off any move around the outside. He certainly won't be repeating what Lando Norris did here last year, where he just allowed himself to get absolutely pantsed by George Russell. So, yeah, I don't think there'll be any of that going on from Oscar again, like Imola. He'll certainly learn from that.
Yeah, you'd imagine he'll be a bit more taking authority a bit more in that first corner. And obviously in regards to the start for Max Verstappen, I mean, we have to remember George Russell as well. Obviously made that amazing start last year from the same grid position, but Verstappen, I mean, he's already talked up at the start tomorrow, going 3 wide into the first corner. Um, how aggressive do you think Max will be? Do you think he's just going to absolutely send it as aggressively as possible, or do you think Max is not quite going to go to that level? I mean, he has to be aggressive to help his race, but do you think, let's say coming into turn one, it is 3 wide. Do you think he will try to go around the outside of both McLarens, or do you think he'll be a slight bit more cautious than that?
Of course, if the opportunity is there, Max will go for it, but I think Max is probably a little bit more reduced that he's not going to win this, that he's very unlikely to win this Grand Prix. Just Red Bull is certainly lacking a bit more pace around here than compared to at Imola. Um, Tyre wear is going to be obviously a massive factor today. So if you can get ahead of one of the McLarens, that will certainly help things out. But of course, he's going to absolutely try because, as you mentioned before, he's still only 25 points behind the championship. So he's still got to try and take points off these McLarens if he wants to try and well and truly stay within reach of the McLarens.
Absolutely. And Verstappen, if he can win today, he would be at least 18 points off the lead of the championship. So yeah, will be interesting, obviously, to see what Verstappen does at the start. And again, if he can win, this would be an absolutely massive win for him, as it would be for all three of the championship contenders. In regards though to the race, ultimately, what's your top five for this Grand Prix?
Oh, we're spreading out to a top five. Um, no, I'm happy to give you a top five. I mean, I think we're all expecting a two stop, which should actually make things quite interesting. You know, an actual warranted two stop on merit. Wow, imagine that. Not some Mickey Mouse format. Um, but ultimately, it's going to be whoever leads out of the first lap, you would assume would win the Grand Prix. And I think that'll be Oscar Piastri. I'm sure there's two nobody surprised in the chat who's who's a regular here. I'll say Lando finishes in second. I think the McLarens will just be too strong over the race distance today. Then in third, ooh, I'm gonna go for Lewis Hamilton. I was really encouraged by Ferrari last time out at Imola, and I think Ferrari will be pretty strong in the race again today. So I'll go Lewis in third. I'll go Max in fourth, and then I will go Leclerc in fifth.
Yeah, Ferrari definitely, as you've said, they've been a slight bit more encouraging over a race distance than what they've done in qualifying quite a bit as of late. Yeah, Hamilton. We have to remember this is in these last few years been one probably I wouldn't say his best track, but one of his best tracks. Was on the podium here last year and the year before, in a Mercedes car that was not exactly great. So yeah, Hamilton, someone we definitely have to watch out for. But personally, for me, I think Leclerc is the one to watch out for with those was it two new sets of the medium compound tire. So yeah, we'll see how Leclerc gets on with that. If you guys weren't here earlier for my prediction was it Piastri to win from Verstappen, Norris, Leclerc, and Russell. I think I had in P5. In regards to the race in Monaco last week, I mean there wasn't a race in Monaco really. It was as organised as it could have been in terms of the result. Yeah, I mean, we knew that the two stop wouldn't work, but was it worse than you imagined it to be? With teams deliberately holding up others to ensure a result.
Yeah, it was definitely worse. I mean, fair play to AlphaTauri or to whatever V Carb or whatever the hell they're called. Racing Bulls, that's it. Why did I like just? Why'd they go back 2 years then? Um, I mean, fair play to them. They did it. They did a brilliant strategy. But yeah, I mean, let's face it, it was a bit of a nonsense. And of course, then Williams did a great job as well. I mean, it was just all a bit silly, wasn't it? Um, I think we all expected like it just to have absolutely no impact and create and just be create it and make it be more silly, and that certainly proved to be the case. Um, so yeah, just hopefully they never ever do that again. and maybe listen to some of George Russell's recommendations.
Yeah, as well, there's been I don't know, I think you might have sent it to me that, was it Alex Verts? Uh,
Oh, yes.
yeah, he came up with, a couple places where you could, alter the track layout. I I mean, yeah, it could help, but, I mean, do you think realistically, do you think they are gonna alter the layout in any way to help these cars? I don't think they will. I don't think they I don't think they care enough, Liberty, to alter the track layout to it to try and help it be a better or somewhat of a race, because they're already getting an absolute shit ton of money, um, for the event. And one thing I saw was what was it? The Monaco Grand Prix did a record audience in the US last Sunday, for a record audience for a Monaco Grand Prix, to be clear. Um, so I think it's pretty unlikely they will alter the track. Do you think there's any chance maybe in the next few years we'll get a slightly new layout?
I think the suggestions that Wertz made about changing the profile of Raskas and the hairpin, I think those should be done immediately because those are things that you can do without, having big civil engineering projects. Um, so I think though, I quite frankly, I think those should be adopted immediately. The one where he suggested that the Novel chicane is about 80 meters less. That I don't think that will ever happen because that will take too much time, and they've already been doing a huge amount of stuff there with the big massive hotel and stuff that they put out of Mirabeau. Um, sorry, out of Portier. Um, so I don't think any stuff like that will happen as it's getting a little bit awkward here with the England team here. Lazenby's trying his best and they're giving them absolutely nothing.
Yeah, Bukayo Saka basically just told him to fuck off, and now he's interviewing Dan Burn, who he'll definitely say something.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the as I said earlier, the England team I think are based in the Catalonia area because they're playing Andorra. I think next week. I think next Saturday or something like that. So that's why they're at the Grand Prix as Lando Norris makes his way to the front of the pack, obviously, to for the national anthems, which will be in a couple minutes. And as we are, guys, only 17 minutes away from the start of this race, make sure to give us your predictions in the chat. What do you think is going to happen in this Grand Prix? Make sure to post your predictions, or make sure to cast your vote in the poll running still in the chat. That poll will keep running probably for another 10 minutes, and then I will finish it up and we'll see quickly what the results are. But yeah, let me just go through a few comments. Todd saying
I,
Piastri
I,
going to put Lando in the grass. What were you going to say?
I've got one comment. When's Jack Dillon being put back in the Alpine?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I saw a story on X, I think this morning, that might actually, because Doohan's going to be back in the car at some point. That might be accelerated. Maybe not for Canada, but maybe I think the race after is Austria. So yeah, that probably should happen. I mean, Colapinto was a bit unlucky yesterday, but he has been way too far off the pace. Doohan, I can't remember how far Doohan was behind Gasly on average, but it was nowhere near as bad as Colapinto has been at times. So yeah, I think Doohan at the latest, I think he'll be back in the car at Silverstone, which I think he would be anyway, because I think wasn't the deal that Colapinto gets 5 races.
5 races, which then Briatore said wasn't the wasn't the deal.
As yeah, we'll see what happens with that, but I don't think Colapinto's going to be in that car for much longer. Um, yeah, Todd's saying Piastri going to put Lando in the grass. Obviously, at the start of last year, as you were saying earlier, Lando got mugged off from everyone almost at the first corner. But yeah, Max was last year obviously on the front row, and he did have to go slightly onto the grass. So we'll see if it gets close like that again at the start. Astro saying, I just love the Monaco track as it is personally. Classic history, atmosphere, respect it for what it is. Need smaller cars. I think there, as Nib said with like Rascas, there's definitely stuff you could improve on without it being a massive overhaul type project. So, yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, Rascas has been changed before. Obviously, it used to be a lot more complicated of a corner. I think pre 2003, I think it was quite a bit different. Obviously, the end of the swimming pool section they've changed a million times with the curbs and the layout. So there's nothing wrong with small alterations to try and help things, but I think long term, smaller cars will absolutely have the biggest effect, even if they don't change the layout at all. Because even if they make, say, Rascas into like a proper hairpin where you can overtake, it's still going to be incredibly hard to overtake because of just how wide these cars are. And that's why attempts to overtake into Rascas, the last couple I've seen, I think have ended in collisions because again it's just these cars are just too big. Right, let me find a couple more comments if I can. Astro saying yes, bring back doing. Richard saying yeah, replacing doing with Colapinto was a bit mad. I have to say, I don't know if I know Colapinto had a bad accident in, was it Las Vegas, where he had a was it a concussion? I can't remember exactly. It might have been that race, or it was a race around that time. Since then, he has not been the same driver as he was before. Because remember, before we were praising the guy to the high heavens for how brilliant he was when he came into the Williams for a few races last year. But since that accident, again, I think it was Las Vegas, where he had a concussion, he has not been the same driver. So, yeah. And if he keeps up his current performance level, there's no reason to keep him in that car. Especially given that, I mean, Alpine really long term need to be looking for a good, solid option alongside Gasly because, I mean, Flavio Briatore is aiming for Alpine to be winning races in the next couple years, which is absolutely ridiculous. But
How long have we heard that for from
yeah,
Alpine?
exactly. What wasn't it? Wasn't it by, I think in 2020 they were supposed to start fighting for the championship, or 2021? So I think it was something like that.
Yeah, I think it was 22, but then Ricardo had already left.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah. It's just an embarrassing team still to this moment. So yeah, I mean the only benefit for next year for them is if it's true that Mercedes will have the best power units, they will have Mercedes power, so that'll be something. They're not going to be, stragglers at the back of the field, but I would be amazed if they are a race-winning team at all, even in the next 10 or even 20 years, to be honest. Right, let me find a couple more comments. Hello to Super Kev. So regardless of Colapinto at Baku 24 overdoing at any race. Again though, Colapinto, he hasn't appeared to be the same driver since that bad accident he had. You've got you've got to judge the drivers on what they're doing now, not on what they have done.
And he's been utter arse.
Yeah. I mean, Sauber made that mistake, I think, with Valtteri Bottas, probably keeping him a bit too long based on what he had done rather than what he was doing more so at the time, say last year, where he was just absolutely nowhere 90% of the time. So, having, employing drivers based on what they have done in the past, yeah, that's great, but they need to keep doing that to a certain level. You can't just have drivers in your car that have potential but never meet it. Right, let me find one more comment and then we'll go forward into this race. Actually, I'll read this out from Brooks that he's posted. It's a quote from Carlos Sainz saying, quote, "This weekend has been tough for the team, but it doesn't mean we can't go for it in the race and try and put it in the points. I strongly believe our race will be better than our qualifying. I don't know if we can make it up to the top 10, but I will give it my all." According to Formula One, the Formula One website, they had Williams as the quickest midfield team in their race simulation. So watch out for Williams. They may surprise us given what they've done so far this weekend. Anyway, let me finish up the poll results and get into this Grand Prix. So I asked you guys who will win the Spanish Grand Prix today. 134 votes, and 52% of you have said Oscar Piastri. 27% for Verstappen, 14% for Norris, and 5% for George Russell. Right, with 8 minutes to go, let's get into a couple final things before lights out here in Spain. Firstly, the championship standings. Obviously, this race is very, very important for the Drivers' Championship. Oscar Piastri goes into this race only 3 points clear of Lando Norris. Max Verstappen third, 25 points behind. All three of the top three really do have to win this Grand Prix. George Russell in fourth on 99 points. We'll see if he can get himself over the 100-point mark today. Leclerc in fifth, Hamilton sixth, Antonelli seventh, Albon eighth, Ocon ninth, and Isaac Hadjar now in the top 10 after his brilliant Monaco Grand Prix. On the constructor side, McLaren are pretty much already constructors champions. Mercedes, though, in second, only 4 points clear of Red Bull, who are only 1 point clear of Ferrari. Be interesting to see who is second at the conclusion of this Grand Prix. Williams in fifth on 54 points, miles clear of the midfield. Haas in sixth, only 4 points clear of Racing Bulls. That might change around today, those two positions, if Isaac Hadjar can have a great race. Aston Martin in eighth, Alpine ninth, and Sauber last of all. Let's quickly go on, though, to the front-running teams and some key stats regarding these teams at this Grand Prix. McLaren, their last win in Spain was 20 years ago with Kimi Raikkonen, who won this race by 35 seconds at this exact track as well. Can they dominate this Grand Prix like that? We'll see. And since the turn of the century, McLaren have only won twice in Spain in the year 2000 and 2005. Last year, second and seventh it was in the race. They were so close to the win. Can they get it today? Red Bull, of course, won last year's Spanish Grand Prix with Max Verstappen and have been the most successful team in recent years here. They have taken victory 4 times since 2015. And Max obviously winning all those races for Red Bull. And yeah, last year, first and 8th for Red Bull. Be incredible if they can pull off that result again. Ferrari's last win here at the Circuit De Catalunya was 12 years ago with Fernando Alonso, which is also Fernando's last win in Formula One. And that is Ferrari's only win in Spain since 2010. Last year, 5th and 6th they were in the race. Can they get something better today? And for Mercedes, their last win here was in 2021 with Lewis Hamilton. They have taken 6 victories here in Spain since 2015, even though most of them were in a previous era. Last year, though, good race for them, 3rd and 4th. They'd be pretty happy with that again. And let's now go on to your starting grid for the Spanish Grand Prix. On the front row, it is an all McLaren front row for the first time at this track since 1998. On the second row, Max Verstappen and George Russell. Watch out for Russell, who got into first from 4th on the grid last year. On the third row, Lewis Hamilton and his replacement at Mercedes, Kimi Antonelli. Charles Leclerc and his good friend Pierre Gasly lock out the 4th row. And then completing the top 10, Isaac Hadjar and Fernando Alonso. Fernando, of course, has won this race twice before. Just outside of the top 10, Alexander Albon and Formula 2 champion last year, Gabriel Bortoleto. With Lance Stroll out of the race, it is now Lawson 13th and Oliver Bearman in 14th. 15th and 16th then is Hulkenberg and Ocon. On the penultimate row, Carlos Sainz, who has had so many great results here in the past, and Franco Colapinto. And because there's only 19 runners, Yuki Tsunoda will be the last runner, but he will be starting from the pit lane. And that is your grid for this Spanish Grand Prix. Here is the order and all the tyres. Obviously, I don't know the exact tyre information at the moment. That's just a guess that everyone is going to start on the medium, but that probably won't be the case. Looks like, especially with the top 10, almost everyone will be starting on the soft. Stroll obviously at the bottom as a DNS did not start. As it is an incredibly hot day at circuit. The track temperature, I think, is just about over 50 degrees Celsius. So tyre management today, absolutely crucial for this Spanish Grand Prix, as it always is, but especially today. But yeah, in a moment, we'll find out the tyre information, and then I'll correct it, obviously, on screen. And yeah, 66 lap race, and should be, at least for everyone, a 2-stop race, maybe a 3-stop race if we get a virtual safety car or safety car at a certain point of the Grand Prix. As they're just going through the grid now. And we'll find out in a moment. There you go. Rook saying everyone on softs except for Tsunoda on the mediums. That is a surprise that Leclerc is going to be on the soft. But I think they really, the reason everyone is starting on that tyre is really to get it out of the way so that they can then use the better tyres for the majority of the race going forward. So I'll just quickly update that information. Everyone on soft tyres except for Tsunoda starting from the pit lane on the mediums. We'll watch, see what Tsunoda can do, who should have a better setup on his car now than what he had in qualifying. As formation lap will be underway in about 90 seconds, I think, or so. As we're saying, George Russell on the grid, who has been on the podium twice before at this Grand Prix. Was unlucky not to be on the podium last year after his amazing start. And Lando Norris starting from second. Can he make up for his qualifying effort? We will see. As a massive attendance here at the Spanish Grand Prix, despite their two Spaniards, Alonso and Sainz, not being in front-running cars, still at a brilliant attendance at this Grand Prix. And there you go. Everyone on the soft except for Tsunoda. And Rook saying only people on fresh soft tyres are the McLarens in the top 10. So we'll
You can certainly see that looking at them.
as formation lap is now underway. And yeah, McLaren pulling away. And this should be, thankfully, the longest formation lap. As they come down the pit straight. Are you surprised that maybe like a Sainz or someone like that hasn't gone for maybe a medium? This has got to be the first time since I've started watching Formula One that almost everyone is on the soft compound tyre around this track.
I think it's more that they just perhaps want to get the tyre out of the way. Although you typically see them start on a little bit more of a durable tyre, and then perhaps not caught in traffic. For those who haven't pitted, so yeah, a bit surprising, but I mean, you would hope that these teams know what they're doing a little bit more compared to us.
Yeah.
Although there've been many occasions where Naki Rueda certainly did not.
Yeah. Plenty of times we were screaming at the TV about what they should do, and they ended up doing the absolute worst possible option, Plan D or whatever it was at the time. As the front of the pack just coming through turn 10 and into the final sector. As the two McLarens are just backing the pack up. And yeah, the only time they've started or they've locked out the front row here, I think, was in 1998. They have had 3, I believe, 1-2 finishes at this track, all during the Hakkinen Coulthard era. So it's been a long time, but if they were to get it today, it'd be absolutely brilliant for McLaren. As the front 3 now onto the pit straight as they do their final burnouts before setting onto the grid, as McLaren, everyone in the McLaren pits looks incredibly nervous because they know that this part of the Grand Prix is the only part really where they can lose this race, as the front 4 line up. Toto Wolff looking pretty calm. Nothing really to lose for Mercedes. 4th and 6th on the grid. Sonoda enters the pit lane. Colapinto will be the last car on the grid in 18th. As the last few cars line up now. So who out of the top 3 will win this crucial race for the championship? Let's find out. As the flag waves at the back, the lights are on. It's 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. And lights out very quickly, I must say. But what a start by Oscar Piastri, who leads away. Verstappen side by side with Norris. Russell has got the inside line on Norris. Will he go for it? No, he doesn't. But Max Verstappen sends it round the outside of Norris as a Ferrari is up to 4th, as that is Alonso, who has cut the chicane. He's now going to give loads of positions back. But it's Lewis Hamilton up to 4th. Brilliant start by him. But Max Verstappen, crucially, is up to 2nd place. What a start that was, especially from Piastri. As all down the inside, Leclerc goes on Russell, and he gets the move done. What a start here for the Scuderia, 4th and 5th. They are now here on the first lap. It's Mercedes, all at sea. As Russell trying to come back at Leclerc as they're now on the run down to turn 10, but nowhere near close enough. As that's Alonso side by side with Hadjar, and Alonso's got the inside line, but Hadjar's going to try and hang it round the outside. And he does it. Brilliant move by the young Frenchman. As we begin lap 2 of 66. And Oscar Piastri leads from Verstappen second, Norris third, Hamilton fourth, Leclerc fifth, Russell sixth, Antonelli seventh, Gasly eighth, Hadjar ninth, Alonso in, I was going to say 10th, but not anymore. Nico Hulkenberg has gone from 15th up to 10th. What a start from Hulkenberg. As Alonso now tries to come back and goes right round the outside of Hulkenberg at turn 3. What a move by Fernando, who is... well, now he's lost position against Hulkenberg, who's got the move back. And Hulkenberg back up to P10 as Alonso again tries to go round the outside of the Sauber. And Hulkenberg now keeps the position. What a start by Sauber. 10th and 12th they are after starting 12th and 15th. So there you go. That is some brilliant stuff there as we're about to begin lap 3. Piastri only 7 or now 6/10 of a second ahead of Verstappen as they're about to begin lap 3. DRS, remember, is now enabled. And Verstappen looking very strong at this moment in time as Lando Norris is dropped quite far behind the front two as Verstappen having a look at Oscar into turn 1, but nothing doing at the moment. But it is surprising, isn't it, Nib, just how quick Max looks already, right behind the McLaren of Piastri.
A little bit, but it also wouldn't surprise me if Max is very aware that if he has any chance, well, his best chance of getting a win here today would to be getting ahead of the McLarens as soon as possible. So he's probably pushing very hard at this stage.
Yeah, but Piastri, unfortunately for Verstappen, has pulled away quite a bit on this lap so far. So Oscar responding. Oscar has to get himself out of DRS range if he wants to pull away and win this race. And that's exactly what he's doing, as Russell saying. These fucks are moving under braking today. What is going on? And then he's told to concentrate. And yeah, not happy Russell. He's lost 2 positions at the start. It's been a disaster of a start for Mercedes.
That was Toto, by the way, who come over the radio and said that.
What was it? I've noticed Toto has been very talking on the radio a lot to the drivers, hasn't he? In this season, he's done it to Antonelli, to Russell at times. He's very quick to get on the button. Is Toto?
Yeah, he's a bit more hands-on.
Yeah, as Gasly there having to defend from Hadjar into turn 1. Hadjar having a brilliant start here and a good run through turn 3. But not close enough to get a move done. But Hadjar looking very quick here. Hadjar, interestingly, had the slowest, or one of the slowest top speeds in qualifying out of the whole field. So I think Racing Bulls have probably put a race setup on that car. But great news for McLaren. Oscar Piastri now 1.9 seconds clear out front. He is really starting to stretch his legs now and show the superiority of that McLaren, which is what he needs to do. And Lando Norris is starting to gain back time on Verstappen. But Ferrari hanging on well. Only a second Hamilton is behind Norris. And Leclerc only a second behind Hamilton. So Ferrari looking good here. And remember, Leclerc has 2 new sets of mediums in 5th. When I think the top 4 ahead of him will have to use a set of hard tyres at some point. Or if they do use a set of mediums or softs, again, it'll be a used set. As here is now a replay of the race start, and Nib, I'll let you take us through it.
Yep, and thankfully, for my case, it was a nice, relaxing turn 1 as Piastri got an absolute mega start. Whereas, my God, were the Ferraris off the line quickly. They're absolutely swamping Antonelli as Max brilliantly goes around the outside of Lando Norris. I mean, just great moves by the Ferraris. I'm not actually too sure how how Leclerc got past Russell here as we're just into turn 4 now, but now back to Norris's onboard, and you just see Piastri absolutely streaming away about 2 car lengths on everyone else, and Verstappen got alongside and comfortably got the move done on Norris, who's actually quite happy to settle back behind Verstappen. He didn't really challenge him into the braking zone whatsoever. Is now on board with Hamilton, and Hamilton himself actually did not get a good start side by side here with Leclerc, but then he just sort of follows the line of Verstappen, gets Russell comfortably, who was tucked up behind Norris, and easy as you like.
As I think you're about to see some contact there between Lawson
Lawson and Alonso, yep.
and Lawson, and that's why, right? Yeah, I think Sauber might be under investigation. I mean, I'm not sure if they really could have gone anywhere else, but yeah, both Saubers went to the escape road, which I think definitely helped at the start there, but I'm not sure they had anywhere to go. As
No.
Charles Leclerc is all over the back of Lewis Hamilton, and Ferrari have got to tell Lewis to get out of the way here. Lewis is clearly holding up Leclerc. Hamilton has dropped another second and a half to Norris, who's continuing to close in on Verstappen. Piastri leads by 3 seconds. Norris only 1.2. Behind is Albon. Has been told to pit on lap 7. That is, or the end of lap 6. That is amazingly early to pit. Here comes Leclerc. What on earth are those Italians on the pit wall doing? This is... How obvious do they need it that Leclerc's being held up? They are destroying their race here. Absolutely just stupidity. As Albon...
I do believe Albon had some damage.
Yeah, I was going to say that's
So
the
that might be why.
only reason why you would pit, but I cannot believe Ferrari. I honestly cannot believe them. Yeah, I don't even know what to say at this point. This is just typical Ferrari behavior, this.
Yes, that's exactly what I've just thought in my head. Typical Ferrari. I mean, what are they doing? I mean, Leclerc on that previous lap was right on pace with second and third, but now they're going at about a second, 1.3 seconds slower than Piastri out in front. So, just smooth brain, bunch of smooth brains over there at Ferrari.
Absolutely. As Hamilton has now dropped now to 3 seconds behind Norris, and Leclerc not being held up as much on this lap as he was before, but Hamilton really struggling with the rear end of that car. And yeah, Leclerc is going to get a run on Hamilton here. I don't think he's going to dive to the inside or anything, but I just do not understand what Ferrari are doing here. They are completely destroying Leclerc's race, when Leclerc legitimately, I think, has got a chance of a podium today. And Ferrari have said, no, we must destroy your race first, as Hamilton is losing about a second a lap I mean, even just to Lando Norris ahead of him. He is very slow right now, is Hamilton. As, Alex Albon, by the way, came out 19th. He is on a new set of soft tyres, obviously new front wing. As we begin lap 9, Oscar Piastri, 3 seconds clear up front. Piastri clearly is now just managing his tyres, doesn't need to push. Verstappen's too far back. Norris, though, is edging closer, as here comes Leclerc. Surely he's got to make the move. No, Hamilton closes the door. What the actual fuck is going on with this team? I would love to see the Twitter timeline right now between all the Lee Clark fans and Hamilton fans, as
Oh,
Tsunoda
Max.
and Behrman pit. And
Yeah.
Tsunoda clearly just
Wow.
getting rid of those mediums. And Alex Albon, I think, still is going to be in 19th place. Nope, he goes just out of Tsunoda, so he is up to 18th. As Lewis Hamilton is now 5 seconds behind Norris. He's losing so much time, and he's now been told swap positions with Leclerc. That came about 5 laps too late. So well done. Pretty long tea break that must have been for them to only just think to say that to Hamilton. Will Hamilton let him through though? He does. Down the inside, Leclerc didn't quite see it coming, but it has been done. So there you go. Leclerc now 4th, but 6 seconds now behind Lando Norris, when he could have been only a couple seconds behind if they had actually used their brain. As we've got Hulkenberg, who was 10th. He's just pitted for a set of mediums. Carlos Sainz. Oh, what's happened here? They're removing debris from his car. That is a horrible pit stop. He's lost. That was a 10.8 second stop. And he's now last. Williams, 18th and 19th. What a disaster of a race this is turning into.
They were changing his front wing.
Oh, right. Were they? Okay.
Yeah. They were just screwing it on. That's why it took so long.
All right. I thought it was like debris in the suspension area or something. But yeah, Williams. We'll see what they can do now as Hulkenberg and Behrman have gone on to the mediums. So they're the only medium tyre runners out there now. They've both pitted. Here is, though, Max Verstappen ahead of Lando Norris. Norris now has DRS access. He's just used it down the pit straight, but he's not got really that much closer. As here is Yuki Tsunoda passing Alex Albon for 17th place. As that is Pierre Gasly pitting from 8th place and comes out just about ahead of Hulkenberg. Gasly on the soft, Hulkenberg on the medium. So that's worked out just about for Alpine. So Gasly now in 14th place as Hulkenberg's going to try and get past Gasly if he can, but I don't think he will be able to. So let me just update that Hulkenberg and Behrman are on medium, so they should be going a bit longer in this second stint. As we're now lap 12. Piastri 3.8 clear of Verstappen. Verstappen, though, is going to have to defend as here comes Lando Norris. But Lando doesn't really go for the outside line there. But this feels to me, Nib, like Miami. It's inevitable that Max is going to lose the position here, isn't it?
Yep, for sure. And I would be so angry if I was a Leclerc fan. Immediately on the pace with the cars ahead of him as soon as he gets past Hamilton.
Yeah, just I have no more words to describe what Ferrari are. Honestly, that was just a awful few laps where they did absolutely nothing. And Leclerc, it's got to hope that Max holds Lando up here because that's the only chance Leclerc has of getting into this fight for the podium. Because if Lando overtakes Max, then Lando will run away. And Max, I mean, it's not going to be easy to catch if Max is just driving on his own and not having to defend his position everywhere. As through the final corner they come on lap now 13 of 66. And Verstappen is going to have to get the anchors out to defend this one. And he doesn't. He does not defend at all. He surrenders to McLaren as Lando Norris is up to second. And that is your race in terms of the race win. That's done and dusted. McLaren surely are going to secure now the 1-2. They are just way too quick. Even faster compared to the rest of the field than I expected. As Lawson has just overtaken Bortoletto for 10th. Which we're just seeing the end of that now. But yeah. This is going to be a very comfortable 1-2. Norris already over a second ahead of Verstappen. And he's not even done a full lap since his overtake. So yeah. As Leclerc was 6 seconds or so behind Verstappen, now 5 seconds behind. So Leclerc starting to catch. I think they're going to have to bring that Red Bull in pretty soon because I think Max doesn't have any tyres really left. As a decent overtake there by Lawson. And here is Alonso running 11th. Or, well, was 11th. Well, no, he is 11th because he's gone... Well, that's a replay of him going off the track at, I think, turn 5. So he's actually lost position to Lawson and Bortoletto now with Max Verstappen. Now pits, and Verstappen will come out behind Hadjar in 8th place in between the two Racing Bull cars. So an early pit stop. Earlier than they would have wanted. They probably would have wanted to do another 2 or 3 laps, but they had to do that, really, to cover themselves against Leclerc. As here is Ocon trying to pass Alonso, who looks like he's got 0 pace. Obviously, his tyre's still a bit dirty from having gone off. But, yeah, Verstappen in 8th. And... best he can do at this point is finish on the podium. But this is a good chance, though, for Ferrari now to run long into this race and have fresher tyres for the second half of this race. Because really, if you're Ferrari, you'd want to be going a few laps longer into this race before pitting. As Verstappen... we're on board with. I don't think McLaren are going to respond to Max's stop because they know that they'll just easily overtake him anyway if they fall behind him. As Piastri now on lap 15 and is 4.1 clear of Norris. Leclerc in 3rd is 11.5 seconds off the lead. Hamilton is about 15.5 off the lead. So if Piastri was to pit now, he would come out, I think, just ahead of Isaac Hadjar.
Correct.
So thankfully for Piastri, he's cleared the midfield runners from his pit window as Colapinto now pits. Bit surprising that.
Oh, I just can't believe.
Go on.
Yeah, I just can't believe what shambles Ferrari have done here. I mean, the McLarens are in a world of their own, but then Leclerc's about 6/10 off of them, and then everyone else is about second off Leclerc. So, insane for Leclerc.
Well, if he misses out on a podium by like less than 5 seconds, he has every right to moan at his team because he would have been cost that because of those few laps, no doubt.
Yeah.
As here is Verstappen, replay of him going up the inside of Hadjar at turn 10. So Verstappen up to 7th. As Colapinto now last of all the runners. And let me just update that Hulkenberg, of course, is on the medium. That Sonoda is on the soft as Alonso now pits. And let's hope this stint of the race is a lot better than that one, because that one was pretty dreadful for Fernando, who will come out in come out last, just behind this battle between Sainz and Colapinto. So Alonso down to 19th. So Colapinto actually on the medium compound of tyre. As we're now on lap 17, Piastri, 4.2 clear of Norris. McLaren drivers lapping at about the same pace. As here comes Lewis Hamilton. Not quite sure why he's pitting. I thought they would have gone a bit longer. And yeah, he said on the radio, that's a long way to go. So yeah, I think they should have probably gone a few more laps there with Hamilton, but that's what they've decided.
As if Piastri to pit right now, Verstappen would be right there. So interesting that McLaren are letting Verstappen seemingly jump them. Of course, they should comfortably have the pace to re-overtake, but I'm not too sure Piastri would be overly pleased to pit and then see Verstappen ahead of him.
Yeah, he definitely would not, but I think McLaren would be right in that they would be able to repass Max probably in 2 laps because they are miles quicker. As here is Verstappen on the back of Antonelli. And Antonelli has no reason to let Max through, but I don't think he'll have a choice because Antonelli has absolutely no grip compared to Verstappen, who just goes straight around the outside. And Verstappen up to 5th. As Leclerc now pits. Again, I am surprised Ferrari didn't decide to go a few laps longer, but oh well. Leclerc will come out, I think, in 8th. Will he? Behind Lawson? Be close? No, he'll come out just ahead of Lawson. That's great for him. So Leclerc now 7th, and he's on one of his new set of medium tyres that he saved for this Grand Prix. So Leclerc on the mediums in 7th place. And it's a replay of Verstappen going around the outside of Antonelli. And yeah, be interesting with Max Verstappen to see when he pits for the second time. Because if he pits before, say, lap 35, that's going to be a long way to the end on tyres that, especially in the last 10-15 laps, will not be very good. As Lewis being told that they brought him in early to protect him from an undercut.
What?
I was about to say, what undercut? But, yeah. I mean, even if Mercedes did undercut them, so what? Pitting earlier has not proven yet to actually be a good decision. So who cares if Mercedes did that? Absolute stupidity once again.
Ferrari jumping at shadows there.
Yeah. As Lawson now pits. Good first stint for him. And comes out on the mediums. He will come out quite low down as Verstappen right up the inside of the Mercedes there into turn 7. And Max, he's doing exactly what he needs to do on this in this part of the race. He needs to push as hard as possible because later on when F1 has fresher tyres, he is going to be struggling quite a bit. As I think if Piastri pitted now, he would now come out behind Verstappen by a couple seconds. As here is Alonso, presumably overtaking Colapinto, I'd imagine. And yeah, once again, right round the outside, a move he knows well. So, Alonso up to 18th, and then passing Sainz. So Alonso now in 17th place. Then here's a replay of how Max got past Russell as
He nearly crashed into the back of him at turn 5.
as Lawson has come out 15th now as Bortoletto is now pitted. And that is Behrman overtaking Hadjar, who's just come out of the pits. Obviously, Behrman's pitted quite a while ago. Hadjar now around the outside of turn 3. Can he have the outside for 4? Yes, he can. Brilliant move. And Hadjar up to 11th. And he has come out behind Pierre Gasly, who he was racing, but he's only about 5 to 6 seconds behind. So Isaac's in a good position here because he'll have fresh tyres now to catch up. So it is currently on lap 21. Piastri leading, Norris second, Verstappen third. Russell now pits from 4th. And then it's Antonelli 5th, Leclerc 6th, Hamilton in 7th, Gasly 8th, Hulkenberg 9th, Ocon 10th. Ocon is not pitted. And then Hadjar, Behrman, and then Tsunoda, Albon, Lawson, Alonso, Sainz, Colapinto, and Bortoletto. That is your field as George Russell comes out in 7th. That was a good stint for Russell. He now comes out, clears the midfield cars, and now is only 5 seconds behind Hamilton on quite a few lap fresher tyres. As here comes McLaren, surely for Oscar Piastri. No, it's for Lando Norris. Well, it'll work out probably better for Piastri because he'll have a lap or so fresher tyres than his teammate. On lap 22 we are now, and Norris will come out in 3rd, but it'll be much quicker than Verstappen on much fresher tyres. So Norris in 3rd should clear Antonelli. Antonelli's pitting anyway. And Norris comes out. So Ferrari will be 4th and 5th. Leclerc is, as Antonelli pitting there, not a great, oh no, it was a good stop, 2.5 seconds. Leclerc is about 16 seconds behind Verstappen, who really is his rival for this race now. That's a lot to catch up for Leclerc, as Antonelli comes out just ahead of Hulkenberg and not too far behind Pierre Gasly, as Piastri now told to box. Piastri will come out second behind Verstappen, but again, will have a lot more pace. McLaren...
It should be about 5 seconds.
Yeah, McLaren comfortably on a 2-stop. Max probably is on a 2-stop as well, but it's not going to be an easy 2-stop for him, as brilliant stop. 2.2 seconds. And yeah, Verstappen, as you said, will be about 5 seconds ahead. Max, he's done a great job in this last few laps to be as quick as he can, but it's now going to start going against him. As Piastri second now. Norris third, and then Leclerc 4th, Hamilton 5th, Russell 6th, and then Gasly, Antonelli, Hulkenberg, Hadjar, Behrman, Tsunoda, Albon, Lawson, Alonso, Sainz, Colapinto, Bortoletto, and Ocon is your field, as George Russell has done the fastest lap, a 1:19.1. As we're looking at Hadjar now, all over the back of Hulkenberg, should get this move done in the next lap or so. But let me just update the tyre situation, as Piastri came out, I believe, on a set of medium tyres. Yep. And Norris and the 2 Ferraris and the 2 Mercedes cars on the mediums as well. So, and then Gasly. Well, I might as well keep it as medium because Antonelli is about to overtake. May as well just put him in position ahead already. As we're now lap 24 of 66. And here is Antonelli about to pass Gasly for 7th. Antonelli is going to be heading for 7th place. He's absolutely nowhere near his teammate ahead, who's 12 seconds clear of him. But one battle to watch out for in a moment is Russell and Hamilton. Russell just under 2 seconds behind Hamilton now, as Antonelli does officially pass Pierre Gasly. And Hadjar passes Hulkenberg. So there you go. So Hulkenberg doing a great race still. He's in 10th on the medium compound tyres. And then you've got Tsunoda and Albon on the softs. Lawson and Alonso on the mediums. Sainz on the soft. And then Colapinto, Bortoletto and Ocon on mediums. As Lawson saying, he needs to give the position back. Albon, I assume, has just gone off track to defend his position. As lap 25, Verstappen in the lead, but a bit of a false lead, to be honest. As Albon saying that Liam just pushed me off. Needs to get this move done sharpish because Alonso is hunting for any position he can get as they come through the final couple corners. And yeah, the Racing Bulls has not been very quick down the straights this weekend, but he should have another go here at the Williams. And he will. Surely this time he gets the move done. Round the outside. No. He's going to try it. But this time the room is... Oh, I was going to say the room is given, but contact is made. Albon, I think, has lost his end plate. Could not get any worse for Williams this race.
Yeah, that's quite a bit of debris as well.
As, yeah, that could be a virtual safety car, which would be a dream for Max Verstappen. As we're on lap 26, 40 laps still to go. And here's a replay. Lawson, well, this is a replay of what happened before. Went up the inside. I think Albon should have just let Lawson go there, to be honest. Lawson's on much fresher tyres. I don't really know why Albon was fighting it to that point. And Lawson was ahead.
Yeah.
And then on the second incident, I don't think Lawson did anything wrong. If anything, Albon probably turned in a slight bit too early. And that's what caused the contact. As yes, Tsunoda is now last.
I mean, you can see that Lawson's on the apex. He's not gone wide. I think on both instances there that Albon was in the wrong.
Yeah, but Albon has lost position to Lawson and to Alonso as well. So 14th now, and he'll be getting out of the way of his teammate in a moment. As lap 27, Verstappen still 5 seconds clear of Piastri. Piastri is not catching Verstappen as quickly as I thought he
McLaren are
would.
managing their pace.
They are, but I still thought they would be catching a bit quicker than this.
I think they've been very much set a target lap time, and they're just hitting that and not going any faster. Both of them have been doing 19 nines, whereas you saw Russell and Leclerc, when they come out on their mediums, they were in the low 19s. So McLaren are definitely just managing pace here. As Albon's retiring.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure why. I mean, needs a new front wing, but I think they're just giving up there, to be honest. is Hadjar trying to pass Gasly and gets a switch back through turn 1 and 2. Does he go out around the outside? He puts his car around the outside. Does he get the move done? He tries to. Keeps hanging it around the outside, and he does get it done. Brilliant driving from Hadjar, who is now into 8th place, and that is a legitimate 8th place, and he should really be finishing there. He's comfortably been the quicker of the midfield runners, as 10-second penalty for Albon for leaving the track and getting an advantage. I think that was them taking the penalty. They are going to retire the car still.
Yeah.
As a Piastri now is starting to close in.
Yeah, Max's tyres are starting to fall off now, and Piastri did do a bit of a fast lap on that last occasion.
Yeah, it's now 3.5 seconds between Verstappen and Piastri. As we're looking at Hulkenberg, who has just overtaken Pierre Gasly. Gasly, I think, well, he's on the soft tyres, so that might be his tyres may have fallen off the cliff, but it does feel like Gasly's got a bit of an issue as he's lost a lot of pace in these last few laps. As Bortoletto is now up to 15th place. But we are on lap 29. And yeah, Piastri really starting to catch now. So this will be an overtake completed in the next probably 3 to 4 laps. As Albon comes back in to officially now retire from the race. A very disappointing weekend for Williams, but at least for them, they're still comfortably clear of the other midfield runners in the championship. As Albon wheeled back in, and another replay of the Lawson-Albon incident. And then, yeah, Albon's end plate absolutely ripped off at that point. As Max Verstappen pits. Well, if he's going to go to the end, he's going to have to go onto a set of hard tyres here, because this is an early stop for a 2-stopper. And now he goes onto a set of mediums. He'll do well to get to the end in good condition with those tyres. That's all I'm going to say.
Were they just hoping that they were going to force McLaren's hand by pitting him early?
I'm not sure it was that. I think their pace, when they pitted the first time, I think their pace was so bad they just had to get Verstappen onto new tyres. But I think there they may have just pitted him a bit too early. As for Verstappen, he comes out in 4th, just ahead of Lewis Hamilton, thankfully for his race. But yeah, he's going to have to take that tyre just over halfway. We've got just over half the race left, and he's going to have to take it, 36, 37 laps.
He's got to be on a 3 stop.
Possibly. If he is going to go to the end on that tyre, then his tyres are going to be very bad condition in the last 10 laps. And remember, Leclerc has still another fresh set of mediums, and Leclerc probably won't pit, I'd imagine, for another probably 7 or 8 laps at least. So we will see. As So, yeah, lap 31. Piastri now back in the lead, where obviously he should be. Norris second, Leclerc third, Verstappen fourth, Hamilton fifth, Russell sixth, Antonelli seventh, Hadjar eighth, Hulkenberg ninth, Gasly 10th. Nico Hulkenberg, what a race he's having. 15th he started, he's running 9th. And he's comfortably ahead of Gasly in 10th. Hulkenberg heading for some points. Probably one of the best drives of the season, I have to say, from Hulkenberg. So far as this is Lawson having some more trouble with Behrman this time, who took to the escape road. And Lawson will have another go in a moment. Lawson, though, needs to keep his head together because with Pierre Gasly very slow in 10th, if Lawson can get past Behrman in the next lap, Lawson might be able to get a point today, which would be very important for Racing Bulls. Racing Bulls only 4 points behind Haas. At the moment, they are scoring 4 points. As Lawson going up the inside and contact there with Behrman, and yeah, Behrman had every right to go off there. Lawson, one thing you have to say is he definitely has not made any friends on the grid.
No, and he certainly hasn't since he can't come in halfway through last season.
Yeah, him and Alonso seem to be on the same piece of racetrack every race at this rate.
And Perez at Mexico.
Yeah, kept him behind for the entire race, I think it was. In the end, as Lawson tried again to pass Behrman, but nothing doing as Gasly has pitted. Gasly had to pit. His tyres were absolutely finished as Max Verstappen has done the fastest lap. I think if Max is on a 3-stop, then he has to pass Leclerc before Leclerc pits again. And then he'll secure third at that point. And maybe that's what they're trying to do, is make sure they secure third place.
Yeah, because Max is going at a crazy time. 18.4 is 1.6 seconds faster than Leclerc. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be with Leclerc probably in a couple laps or so. Russell still close to Hamilton. Only 1.5 seconds behind. As Max saying it's again like I have no clutch. And then asking 1973 and he says maybe 74. If you watch the Monaco Grand Prix, you guys should remember what he's on about there.
Yeah.
As lap 33, halfway through this Spanish Grand Prix. Don't go anywhere yet because there is still quite a bit to be decided in this one. As Lawson is now dropped to second behind Behrman. I'm wondering, Lawson may have some damage, and that might be why he is now dropped a bit behind Behrman, as Gasly has come out 17th. The two Alpines are the two last cars now on the grid. As Tsunoda is 16th, Ocon 15th, Bortoletto 14th, Sainz in 13th, still flying the flag for Williams on lap 34. But yeah, if Max is on a 3-stop, then Leclerc needs to pit probably at the end of this lap to have a chance at coming back at Max in the rest of this race. As here's Bortoletto trying to pass Carlos Sainz. And I'm sure he'll get the move done down at the pit straight. Bortoletto still having a decent race. He's being overshadowed, though, massively by his teammate, who's having an absolute barnstormer in 9th place. And Bortoletto does go round the outside of Carlos. Good move. And he's up to 13th. Yeah, Hulkenberg 9th and 10 seconds clear of Behrman in 10th. So Hulkenberg very much heading for points. as lap 35. Piastri leading by 4.5 seconds from Norris. Leclerc 5.5 seconds behind Norris. As here is Verstappen now just about second behind Leclerc. And yeah, Verstappen.
Yeah, as Piastri lost a little bit of time actually passing Colapinto. That's why the gap's dropped from 5.5 to 4.2 now.
Right, as yeah, second half of the race for the McLarens. It's just going to be them lapping the traffic, and there is plenty of it. As Lawson finally passes Behrman as Carlos Sainz comes in to the pit. So Lawson up to 10th. Let me just update that Lawson is on the medium. And that here is Verstappen passing Leclerc as Lando saying he can't push because the front left is too grained. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. As Verstappen up to third. And Max is 5.8 behind Lando Norris. So if Max is on a 3-stop, then McLaren need to pit Lando probably on lap 40 to cover this off. But we'll see what they do. So yeah, Piastri leading, Norris second, Verstappen now third, Leclerc fourth, Hamilton fifth, Russell sixth, Antonelli seventh, Hadjar eighth, Hulkenberg ninth, Lawson 10th, and then Alonso 11th because now Behrman is pitted. Behrman pitted quite early on, did about 30 laps almost on the medium. Presumably he'll do another 30 laps now on another set of medium tyres. Yeah, he will. So Alonso 11th, Bortoleto 12th, and then Ocon 13th, Tsunoda 14th. The setup change for Tsunoda has done absolutely nothing, as he's got his good friend Gasly right behind him about to overtake him. As apologies, I've missed a lap, so I'll have to tick it over from 35 to lap 37. As Piastri, I presume, has just had to lap some more traffic because the gap's now 3.2 seconds between himself and Norris.
I think he has.
Well, he's just lost a second.
He's coming up to Gasly, but I mean, Norris is certainly being told to push, but I assume Piastri's get the same message. But yeah,
Piastri just lapped Gasly as Russell told to start closing the gap now, and he says, I'm pushing. He's actually dropping further away from Hamilton. But Piastri begins lap 38, and now the gap is 2.8 seconds between the two McLarens. I mean, Lando is having to push in case Max is on a 3-stop. But yeah, Oscar needs to make sure he gets through the traffic well in case Lando gets through it well himself. As that's Carlos Sainz passing Colapinto, and he's up to 17th place. So everyone is on a set of mediums except for Yuki Tsunoda, who is on the soft tyre. Soft tyre's not working in this race. They're just wearing too quickly. So there you go. As we're looking at Tsunoda, actually about to pass Ocon, but Tsunoda has pitted twice. Ocon has only pitted once. as they come
Yeah,
on
Piastri's
to
now responded on this lap.
as Sonoda. Will he get the move done? Down to turn 1. Ocon doesn't bother to defend. Sonoda goes slightly deep, but he gets the move done. And yeah, Piastri got the gap back up over 3 seconds as Sonoda now 13th. But Sonoda is how far away from a point? He's about 8 or 9 seconds, I think, away from a point. Is Sonoda.
10 seconds off Lawson.
Yeah. I mean, if he's going to get a point, this is the part of the race, these next probably few laps, where he'll need to be at his best, because Lawson will have to pit again probably in the next 10 laps, you would imagine. So, yeah, Oscar Piastri leading by about 3 seconds from Norris. Verstappen closing in on Norris, but not that much. The gap, 4.8 between Norris and Verstappen. As Isaac Hadjar doing pretty well on lap time. He's in the 1 minute 20s on the last lap, along with Leclerc and Hamilton and Russell and Antonelli. Even though he is a bit slower than those drivers, that's still impressive. Only midfield runner, along with Tsunoda and Behrman, who have just pitted for fresh tyres, that are in the 1 minute 20s. So that's a good pace. And Hadjar, once again, having a very impressive race. One of the stars of 2025, without doubt, is Isaac. As this is Verstappen, I think, about to lap a car. Colapinto.
Gasly.
Oh, yeah, Gasly.
Oh, Colapinto. One of them.
It is, I think, yeah, it's Gasly. As Red Bull telling Max, McLaren are now receiving the threat now, Max. They realise they have to push now. As Lando's got the gap down to 2.3 out front, as Leclerc told to pit. Well, the only hope for Ferrari is that Max goes to the end, but I don't think that'll be the case. But yeah. What could have been if Leclerc had been let through a few laps sooner? Maybe they could have prevented Verstappen from doing a 3-stop in this race. But, yeah. Great stop that for Ferrari. And he will come out in 6th. Antonelli has been absolutely miles off the pace in this race, sadly. He's I think 15 seconds almost behind Russell is Antonelli.
Yep.
As yeah, Leclerc now in 6th on his second set of mediums, but probably won't mean anything for him in the end. But heading for 4th, which is, I mean, that's where I predicted he'd finish. And I think in hindsight, Nib probably should have saved a set of soft tyres for Q3, Leclerc, because probably could have been on the podium or fighting for the podium if he had done so.
Definitely. Leclerc's pace has been brilliant today. It's been matching the front guys. A lot of that second stint then. Yeah. Yeah, definitely should have had those extra set of softs for Q3.
Yeah, he just lost too many positions through trying what he tried. And it's not like a track like a Bahrain where you can easily make that back up. As George Russell now pits. Russell will come out, I think, just ahead of Hadjar. He has done the undercut, so now Lewis Hamilton will have to respond. So Russell now 7th. As Verstappen, 4 seconds he is, Max, behind Norris. But still not catching massively quickly to the point where McLaren need to start reacting, as we are on lap 43. But McLaren should probably be pitting in the next 5 laps, I would say. Given that they pitted around lap 25, 26, I think it was. As I got confused then and thought Max was ahead of Norris. It's Tsunoda being lapped. So, and Russell has come out on a set of soft tyres, so Mercedes are going for it. So let me just update that. Russell did have a new set of soft tyres, but I'm not sure. Well, actually, this will be the new set of softs because he was on a used set to start the race. So we'll see what Russell can do. But, well, Ferrari are too late in terms of reacting to Russell. Because if Hamilton pitted now, he'd come out comfortably behind. As Alonso now pits for Aston Martin. Alonso not having a good race at all. Nowhere near as good as I thought it would be. As he comes out in 16th. And no, 17th actually, as Carlos Sainz, his compatriot, just goes in front of him. As Colapinto has pitted again and is on the soft tyre. As we're looking at Alonso's visor cam. And yes, Tsunoda, the only other driver on the soft, I believe. Now up to 12th position as Alonso goes up past Sainz, and Alonso is also on the soft tyre. So up to 16th is Fernando. As Piastri has had a good lap or so. He's now 3.1 clear of Norris.
Yep, did personal best.
And Russell, we're now looking at, he's about to overtake his teammate Antonelli. As Esteban Ocon pits, who was in 13th. And there you go, Antonelli letting Russell through. I honestly don't know what Ferrari are doing with Hamilton unless they're trying to do a one-stop with him, but it's not going to work. Especially with the pace that Russell is showing.
Yeah.
So
Norris got held up quite a bit by Bortoletto there. That's why the gap is now out to nearly 4 seconds.
yeah, Piastri bit more comfortable now for himself. Max still about 4 seconds behind Norris. As Liam Lawson now pits. I think Verstappen is, if he's going to pit again, will be pitting probably in the next lap or so because he's nearly a pit stop clear of Lewis Hamilton. As Lawson and Tsunoda have pitted. So, and Lawson has come out soft tyres. He's going to be very, very quick, is Liam. And that means that Bortoletto is now 10th. Sauber, both cars in the points. Not sure it's going to finish that way, but great to see them properly competitive in a race, which has not been the case that many times in the last couple years. As Gasly now 11th, and then you've got Behrman 12th, Lawson 13th, Alonso 14th, Sainz 15th, Ocon 16th, and then Tsunoda 17th. And let me just update some of the tyres, as we've got Behrman on the medium. Lawson, has come out on the soft tyres, so he's going to be very quick. And we need to watch out for him here. As here is Hulkenberg pitting from 9th. Should be okay to still finish the points. He's quite far ahead of Gasly. He comes up behind his teammate Bortoleto, but Bortoleto, I'm pretty sure he's going to pit again. As now, Lewis Hamilton told to box. I have no idea what Ferrari were doing there with Hamilton. Been clearly undercut by Russell, and now they're pitting him. I mean, unless they think that Hamilton has a chance at coming back at Russell, but I doubt it. As slow pit stop. That's a bad one. 5 seconds there for Hamilton.
Well, now he's going to be like over 10 seconds behind Russell. So, yeah.
Yeah, Ferrari screwing over their drivers as usual, as he's only going to come out just ahead of Isaac Hadjar, who's only pitted once, as Bortoleto is now told to swap positions, and he does. Hulkenberg 9th. Hadjar is probably going to pit at the end of this lap or the end of the next lap to make sure he covers off Nico Hulkenberg, as here is the Red Bull pit crew pitting Max Verstappen for the 3rd time. At least they've tried something with Max, but they're just not quick enough compared to the McLarens out front. And Lando Norris, who is now 5.5 seconds behind Piastri, I'm sure will be pitting at the end of this lap. And he's been told to box, as Max comes out right in between Tsunoda and Ocon, as Tsunoda has just overtook Ocon. Ocon going to try and take advantage of Tsunoda slowing down to let Max through, but is unable to do so. So, now we're going to get the two McLarens making their pit stop and securing the 1-2 that they thoroughly deserve. Easily the best car this weekend. And in comes Lando Norris. This would be their first 1-2 at this track since the year 2000. A quarter of a century ago, as Norris puts on the soft compound tyres. And presumably Piastri will do the same when he pits at the end of this lap. So, Lando Norris now on the soft. And then you've got Russell 5th on the soft. Russell is catching Leclerc, but I don't think he will catch him by the end of this race. And then Antonelli 6th.
Ooh.
And Hamilton 7th on the soft. That's Piastri, told to box. Isaac Hadjar now pits. And Hadjar actually miles clear of Hulkenberg. He could have waited probably another few laps or so, but there's no need to because he is comfortable in his position.
Yeah, Verstappen within a second of Norris here. Very, very quick at the moment is Verstappen on those soft tyres. As Piastri brilliant once he got past all of the traffic, absolutely flying on those mediums.
And Piastri had a brilliant stop, lap 50, and he will come out in the lead, even though he'll be right behind loads of traffic. As you say, Verstappen right on the back of Norris, and Norris has got traffic that he's lapping now of Carlos Sainz. And Verstappen will go through as well. Verstappen's done it incredibly quick, 1:17.1. But you'd imagine that's probably why Lando had Max right on him, because of the traffic. As Lando
No,
looks to pull away.
no, not at all. He was actually right with him. Right as Norris come out the pits.
Right. Probably just tyre warm up or something like that.
Yeah, precisely that.
As now he's pulled, thankfully for himself, over a second clear of Verstappen. Piastri 3 seconds clear of his teammate. So it's Piastri, Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell, Antonelli is now pitted. He's now 7th. It's Hamilton 6th, Antonelli 7th, Hadjar 8th, Hulkenberg 9th, Bortoletto 10th. Bortoletto only a second ahead of Gasly, though, who is surely about to make a move. But Gasly has got Behrman and Lawson all over the back of him. As Bortoletto does now actually pit, finally, for his second stop. So lap 51. And Gasly is into the top 10, but I'm not sure he's going to hold on to that. As Bortoletto comes out in 17th place. And yeah, tons of traffic for these front runners to work their way through. And Cole Palmer looks absolutely baffled as to what's going on, but yeah.
When does he not?
Exactly. As Behrman is 11th, not sure what compound he is on, but I know Lewis Hamilton, let me just correct that Hamilton is on the soft compound tyre. And then Antonelli is on also a set of soft tyres. As Gasly has pulled quite a bit of time over Behrman. Behrman now under pressure from Lawson. Lawson very late, moves to the inside, but he gets it done. That was very close. And this is Lando Norris having to work his way through all of that. And Verstappen gets past. And Lawson is still behind Behrman. So Behrman clearly feels as though he was pushed off, but I'm not sure he was, to be honest. I think he just drove off the circuit.
As now Verstappen is completely right behind Norris after this traffic.
Verstappen.
Oh my god, what are they doing? Verstappen held up massively there by Behrman.
Yeah, and Behrman is incredibly slow because he has pitted a long time ago compared to pretty much everyone else out there. And now you've got Lawson and Alonso all over the back of Behrman as Max says fucking idiots on the team radio.
Oh, Max was going to go down the inside, but thankfully pulled out. Otherwise, it would have been a certain crash.
As here comes Lawson. Lap 53's got to overtake Behrman here if he wants to get a point. And Lawson, Behrman defends to the inside. Lawson goes to the outside. And great move from Liam. Round the outside, and he is up to 11th. Now got to push hard after Gasly, who's about 6.5 seconds up the road as Alonso passes Behrman as well. Behrman losing 2 positions in 3 corners. And is a replay of Lawson. And this is when this is the first attempt where he nearly went off the track. And yeah, I think Behrman should have just gave that up, but went off the track and kept ahead.
Yeah, and at that stage, Norris was right behind. I'm sure Norris would have had poo absolutely everywhere watching that unfold.
Yeah, he was going round the outside of Lawson, and then Behrman out of nowhere just appears in front of him. So that would have absolutely terrified him, no doubt. As here is Verstappen, and yeah, up the inside of the Haas, and he absolutely waves at Behrman for getting in Efron's way. Rightly so. And Lawson, great move in the end, even though it was very close to contact between the two. So, and then Alonso, yet again, round the outside at turn 3. But Alonso, I don't think is going to get a point for his amazing overtakes today. But lap 54. And Lawson is already, he was 6.5 seconds behind. He's now 1.5 seconds behind after about a lap or so. Gasly has had to move out the way for traffic, though, which definitely would have contributed to that. But that is an incredible amount of time he's gained. And Lawson will be able to go at Gasly, I have no doubt, in the next couple laps or so. As Behrman and Lawson noted for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. That would be Behrman who did that. As George Russell is still gaining on Leclerc. Only 4 seconds behind. But I still doubt whether Russell could actually catch and pass, to be honest.
He's catching a very negligible amount, so
Yeah.
yeah, don't think that one will happen.
As Gasly struggling on to the end on his mediums. Alpine, in the end, just pitted Gasly quite a bit too early in this race, and that's going to cost them. As Lawson and Alonso will get their way past probably at some point, as that is a Mercedes of Antonelli, and that looks like a blown engine, possibly. And it's a
Definitely.
full safety car. So the safety car is out, and that's at turn 10. They were very quick to deploy the safety car, I must say. So Antonelli out, and that is the 3rd race in a row where Antonelli will not be scoring a point. This is not good for McLaren. They were heading for a comfortable 1-2 finish. And now, Piastri pits. Not sure exactly what tyres they have left. They should have a new set of hard tyres left, both McLarens, but not sure if that's the
Trying
tyre.
for him to pit, they've got some softs on.
Yeah, I think they probably have. As Max comes in, everyone now gonna come in, and Verstappen has gone back out on hard tyres, and yeah, Norris and I think Piastri on the soft. So Max is gonna be under threat at this restart, warming those tyres up, especially, and this is brilliant for Leclerc, who, I don't know what tyres he's gone on to, but this will be brilliant for him. He can finally fight for the podium.
Yeah. One thing I've got to say is, yes, your engine has just blown up, Mr. Antonelli, but I think that's the 2nd race in a row now where I think he needs to be so 2 out of the last 3 races where he needs to be parking his car in a little bit of a better spot, because that has to be an immediate safety car, because that's in an overtaking zone, and he's parked it in the gravel. So
Yeah.
yeah,
As Max asking, why the fuck are we on the hard? And he's being told that was the only option. And here is Antonelli into turn 10, and let's go in the middle. And looking at that, I'm not sure he could have done anything, because it looks like the rear end locked up on him. Yeah. And yeah, safety
Max was
car.
absolutely baffled, by the way. It was quite hilarious.
Yeah, Verstappen. I think we looked at it before the race. He didn't have a lot of tires in terms of fresh tires available to him coming into this race, like, from what I remember. So yeah, that's what they've had to do,
Mhm. Okay.
unfortunately.
To be fair, it does look like Antonelli lost the rear brakes, so perhaps can be excused on that one.
Yeah, as Carlos Sainz is pitting for a new set of tires. Yeah, soft tires. So on lap 57, I'll correct who's on what tyre in a moment, but it is Piastri leading, Norris second, Verstappen third, Leclerc fourth, and then Russell, Hamilton, Hadjar now seventh, Hulkenberg eighth. What a result that would be. Gasly ninth, Lawson 10th, Ocon 11th, Bortoletto 12th, and then Alonso 13th, Behrman 14th, Sonoda 15th, Sainz in 16th, and Colapinto 17th. That is your order that it will be on the restart. Now, all of the top 10, I believe, is on the soft tyre, except for Max Verstappen is on the hard tyre. So he is going to be in trouble on this restart. And this is also, you have to remember, crucial for the championship, because if he loses a couple positions here, then that will be a big loss for him with this race. As Antonelli already back to the pits. The pit's not that far away from where he went off. That's car being pulled away, so safety car should be in the next couple laps, I would imagine. But yeah, obviously we'll watch out to see what happens with the front running teams, but watch out for the midfield as well, because there are some crucial points on offer in the midfield. Sauber, for example, if they can hang on and get 4 points, that'd put them, I think, ahead of Alpine in the championship and up to 9th. So, yeah, we will see. So, lap 58. And all on softs except Max on the hard and Ocon on the medium. Lawson and Ocon, the only ones who didn't pit under the safety car. Thank you, Rook, for that information. So, let me just correct that then. So, Lawson not pitting. Thankfully for him, Ocon, who also didn't pit, is right behind him to protect him a bit. But Bortoletto now, outside of the top 10, is the highest placed runner who has pitted. So Sauber might be able to get both cars in the points here, which would be quite incredible. As let me just get this other ones correct. Alonso also pitted, clearly. And he's on the soft. So yeah, probably end of the next lap, I think we'll be back underway. As the lapped cars of Lawson, anyone from Lawson down may now overtake. And they've got to do this quickly, because especially for Lawson, he needs to catch back up to the pack to make sure he can still fight the cars ahead. As all those midfield cars all race through. But with Verstappen, Nib, are you expecting him to lose third, or do you think he can hang on?
I would be very surprised if he doesn't lose third.
Yeah. It- He's going to have to do an incredible defensive job here because, I mean, and, we have to remember DRS enabled after one lap. So if Leclerc doesn't get the job done immediately, he doesn't have to. He can just wait a lap or so and then really start to have a go. But there's a reason the hard tyre has not been used today. It's because it's too hard. It's very durable, but it hasn't got any pace in it. That's why people are not using it today. But Max is being forced to use it because he's got nothing left.
Yep.
As the front of the pack is coming through turn 5. And hopefully we'll get the message in a moment about the safety car coming in. I don't think it will be at the end of this lap because I would have said by now. As front of the pack is coming through turn 9. So yeah, safety car will probably come in at the end of lap 60. I don't know why it hasn't. Well, actually, now I know why. Because that group of Lawson, Ocon, Bortoletto, Alonso, Behrman, Sonoda, Sainz, Colapinto, they still need a bit of time to make it back round and join the pack. So Oscar Piastri will begin lap 60, and this again should be the final lap behind the safety car. And
Yep, lap traffic just in turn 7 as they're going through the final corner, so they should catch back up by the end of this lap.
yeah, and there should not be any shenanigans between the two McLarens because, I mean, one, Piastri has proven to be very good at restarting races, but also I think McLaren will be very adamant that the two drivers are to pretty much not race because why risk a 1-2? As there you go. Safety car in at the end of this lap. As Lewis says, they do love wasting laps. They do. I remember,
They
was it Imola? We had
Imola was a joke.
yeah, we had about 5 laps too many behind the safety car.
Yeah, they need to release the lap traffic so much sooner.
As the safety car now, I think, now turns its lights off and now will race off into the distance to get to the pit lane. As Oscar Piastri now becomes the safety car. Of course, it's a long run down to turn 1, but be interesting to see when Piastri decides to go for it. I think he'll try probably and go for it as early as he can to build some positive momentum through the final couple corners to build a bit of a gap, and that's what he decides to do. Good restart. Lando will still be with him to a degree, but they come through the final corner and begin lap 61 as Leclerc all over the back of Verstappen, and he's going to get the move done as he there side by side down the pit straight, and Leclerc is third. Russell now up the inside. Oh, Verstappen's gone off the track. And will he come out ahead of Leclerc? No, he does not. So Leclerc is now third, but Russell is going to be on the radio with that.
Verstappen very nearly crashed out the final corner. He had a massive, massive moment there. Very lucky to still be in this Grand Prix. Far out.
As Max has got absolutely no grip. Russell is all over him into every corner here. Max is going to be lucky to finish in the top 5. As Russell now just needs to keep cool if he can for a moment. so he can get past Verstappen. As Verstappen saying, Charles just rammed into me on the straight. I don't think he did. It was close, but I don't think that is what happened.
Well, we'll certainly need to see Charles is on board for that.
As lap 62. And Verstappen very much under pressure from Russell, who's coming down the pit straight. Russell is not going to send it, but after, I think now, they'll have DRS assistance. What a restart for Piastri. 1:15.7, fastest lap. And here it is. So yeah, Max had a big moment, and then Leclerc. Yeah, well, they did make contact, but that looked to me like Max coming across more on Charles there. But yeah, Max had a gigantic moment out of the final corner. But I don't see what Leclerc did as anything wrong. Do you?
No.
As there's an overhead shot of what happened there. Then Russell went up the inside, and I think there was slight contact there between Russell and Max. I think Max was entitled to go off the track at that point. As Russell up the inside, and yeah, he made contact with him, and it's under investigation by the stewards. I wonder if Russell might get a 5-second penalty for causing a collision. As Verstappen, though, still very much under a lot of pressure from George Russell. As Hulkenberg has passed Hadjar. Hulkenberg up to 7th. What a race the German continues to have, as Gasly is just behind Hadjar in 9th. Lawson still 10th. Bortoleto now 11th. Ocon has dropped down to 14th. And Bortoleto only 2/10 behind Lawson. So Bortoleto very close to a point here with only a few laps to go. As here's Alonso right on the back of Bortoleto. Is he going to send it? He does. And they nearly make contact at turn 7. Fernando is desperate to go off the mark for this season and get a point. And this is his chance. As they come through turn 10. But Alonso not close enough here. As Max saying he needs to get the position back. No, he does not. Stop crying is what I would say in response to that. As Russell not getting close enough out the final corner to really have a go at Max. As Hamilton, Lewis Hamilton is he's almost been overtaken by Nico Hulkenberg. I don't know if Hamilton's made a mistake, but I saw Hamilton and Hulkenberg there side by side. And what the actual fuck was that? Verstappen, was he trying to let him through?
Yes.
And then he just hit him. That reminded me of Saudi Arabia a few years ago. That was, yeah. I ain't got a clue what that was about. And Russell said, what the fuck? And yeah. And yeah, Verstappen now letting Russell through to turn 12. But he's doing that deliberately, so now he can get a great run on him down the pit straight. As
GP come on the radio and told him to let him through, which is a fucking joke.
Yeah, that should not have happened. But Max, he's going to get his revenge. Here he comes. No. As there, Hulkenberg passes Lewis Hamilton for 6th. What is going on? How is Hulkenberg quicker than Hamilton? Unless Hamilton's got some damage or something to his car, but Hamilton has got no pace. So here, yeah, Max has got to get a penalty for that. That is disgraceful. as far as I'm concerned. He lets Russell through into turn 5 and then just goes up the inside and slams into him. That is a clear causing a collision penalty if I've seen one. Then, well, eventually Russell was let through. But yeah, that is absolutely bonkers. And Russell says he's got damage. I don't doubt it. But he should hang on to 4th unless his car falls apart on this final lap, which we know has happened here before in Spain. Nib, though, final lap, quick word on sure to be our race winner, Oscar Piastri. What a race weekend for the Aussie.
Absolutely dominant by Piastri this weekend. Had this race under control right from the time the 5 lights went out. It's been a great performance all weekend.
As Alonso has taken 10th, and yeah, under investigation now, that Russell and Verstappen incident. Hamilton definitely has got something wrong with his car because he's got Isaac Hadjar crawling all over the back of him for 7th place. He's lucky it's the final lap is Hamilton because he's so slow out there, as Verstappen still trying his best to get after Russell, but his tyres are too slow for it to happen. And here comes Oscar Piastri to take yet another win in 2025 and continue his championship lead. Piastri wins in Spain. Norris in 2nd. McLaren 1-2 for the first time in a quarter of a century here at this track. Leclerc 3rd. Ferrari take the podium. First time they've been on the podium here since 2017, I believe, for the Scuderia. George Russell 4th, Verstappen 5th, Nico Hülkenberg 6th. What a race from Hülkenberg. Easily my driver of the day. Hamilton 7th, Hadjar 8th, Gasly 9th, Alonso 10th. Alonso finally gets a point. And then it's Lawson 11th, Bortoletto 12th, Tsunoda 13th, Sainz in 14th. And then Colapinto 15th, Ocon 16th, Behrman 17th. Your retirements, Antonelli and Albon and Lance Stroll never started. Well, that was a lot more dramatic at the end than we expected it to be. But yeah, Piastri, that is his. Look at that. 10-second penalty for Max Verstappen. That's going to relegate him far down the order.
Yep, he's out the points.
Is he? He says he's 10th. Let me just...
Nah, he might actually just be 10th. Yep.
But that, how costly for the championship. 1 point for Verstappen, 25 for Piastri. Piastri is now 49 points clear of Max Verstappen. What a race for Oscar's championship this is. As he takes... I was going to ask you, how many wins now? 6, is it? Or 5? Something like that.
6 overall.
Yeah.
Yep.
And clearly the most wins for the season. Norris still on 2, Verstappen on 2. But yeah, that is a massive win for his championship. He's only 10 points clear of Norris, but 49 points clear of Verstappen. That is a big moment in the World Championship. And
quite seemingly Red Bull's fault. Because it looks like Verstappen didn't need to give the place back whatsoever to Russell.
Yeah, they were just doing
That was shambolic.
Yeah, they were doing that just in case. Just in case they got a penalty. But like you said, I don't think they needed to.
Huh?
So, yeah, that is just an incredible end to the Grand Prix. Max Verstappen 10th, meaning Nico Hulkenberg takes 5th for Sauber. Absolutely incredible. And Sauber are now, I think, level on points. Actually, I think Sauber are now ahead of Aston Martin in the championship in 8th after that result. Right. Let me get a drive of the day vote going. Your drive of the day, Nib, is who?
Yeah, it's Hulkenberg. It's got to be.
Yeah. Remember, guys, Hulkenberg started 15th and he's finished somehow P5. So yeah, who is the driver of the day for the Spanish Grand Prix? And your options for driver of the day will be Hulkenberg, Piastri, of course. Leclerc definitely deserves a shout out. Was very good today. And deserved the podium. And then I am going to go Isaac Hadjar. I'm going to put him in the poll as well. But yeah, Nico Hulkenberg has to be, surely, driver of the day.
Yeah.
But someone, I think Herman, just asked, can you read out the championship standings? I will. So yeah, Oscar Piastri, 10 points clear of Lando Norris. And as I said, 49 points clear of Max Verstappen. This race could be the difference by the time we get to the end of the season. Because that is a big difference in points scored. 24 points he's pulled away by today. Russell 4th, Leclerc 5th, Hamilton 6th, Antonelli 7th, Albon 8th. Hadjar is now up to 9th in the championship. 1 point clear of Ocon. And then Hulkenberg 11th. On the constructors, McLaren are 197 points clear of Ferrari, who are somehow second in the championship despite not winning a race and only having 3 podiums. Mercedes 3rd, Red Bull 4th, and then Williams 5th. Racing Bulls are now 6th in the championship. Haas 7th, Sauber 8th, Aston Martin 9th, Alpine 10th. This race has definitely shook up the midfield. But Nib, 49 points clear of Verstappen. How confident are you feeling now about a Piastri championship?
Well, I'd like to say I've been pretty confident for a few races now. I mean, there is still a long way to go, but I mean, if Oscar keeps performing at this level, that my confidence level is not going to change.
Yeah, Piastri is in a super position, and I think Oscar. I think the good thing for him is he doesn't necessarily, even though Lando is only 10 points behind, so he still needs to obviously keep up. Obviously, consistent, great performance. I don't think Lando is going to be able to put together the consistency to beat Oscar this year. Oscar, I don't think necessarily needs to win every race to win this championship. Why on earth is Terry Crews interviewing Piastri with David Coulthard? Where on earth did he come from? Right, let me
As just quickly, Leclerc and Verstappen, that incident on the pitch straight is under investigation.
right. I don't see why Leclerc should get a penalty. I don't think he did anything wrong. But yeah, we'll see what happens. But still, even if Leclerc gets a penalty, still a really bad day for Verstappen, who absolutely deserves a 10-second penalty for what he did. That was just so bad. And even though, yeah, Red Bull didn't need to let Russell through, that was just terrible driving from Verstappen.
It's safe to say Nico Rosberg was calling it a light penalty and said that Verstappen should have been disqualified.
You could make that argument. It was
Very
yeah,
bad.
very, very bad. And I mean, he's lucky he wasn't. If he did that 15 years ago, he would have been given a stop go.
Exactly.
Let me see if I can find a couple comments here. Todd says signing Piastri was the steal of the century. Looney Classic says it's over, guys. Max will not retain his title this year. I think it's too early to say that, but this is definitely a very bad moment for him, championship wise. But it's too early to say that. Ronan saying, Serigara, your favourite driver Leclerc doesn't hold a candle to Verstappen, so stop gloating. That Ferrari is faster than the Red Bull. Can't wait to laugh in your face in December. I'll leave it to you guys in the chat to argue that one. Todd says Max has to stop making a bad situation worse. Yeah, I mean, that was completely unnecessary, even though, yeah, he may have been frustrated with the hard tyres and collision with Leclerc, collision with Russell. He completely destroyed his race with that incident, which was always going to result in, at worst, a 5-second penalty. So, yeah. But Charles Leclerc, him being interviewed, he looks pretty happy with that, and he should be. Started 7th, finished 3rd. Remember, Ferrari didn't finish on the podium here last year, so this is probably one of the few races, I think probably the only race this year where they've actually bettered what they did last year. So that's at least something. As he looks at the replay of the little contact on the straight, but again, I think it should be fine. Rook saying he might get done for swearing yet. Quite a few people were swearing in that race though, so yeah.
Nah, they're allowed to swear in the cockpit. That's been made very clear.
Yeah. That incident, by the way, between Max and Leclerc reminds me of. Do you remember?
Don't say it.
It was as well that penalty that was ridiculous penalty for that incident that I was gonna reference, wasn't it? It was a stop
wait.
go, wasn't it?
Wait. Are you talking about Webber and Barrichello at in
Nürburgring.
Germany
Yeah,
2009? Yeah.
Webber's first win. Yeah.
Yes, very similar to that. Although maybe even a bit more aggressive by Mark.
But what was? I think Mark got a. Yeah, it was a drive-through. I remember.
It's a drive-through. Yeah.
I think Barrichello. I remember he pitted at the same time that Webber took his drive-through, and then
Webber was so fast that day. My God.
I think that was the worst thing from Braun's point of view that day. It's the worst thing that could have happened because that just made Mark super motivated. Yeah, to then build the gap back up, which he did. But yeah, it is rare you see cars bouncing off each other down the straight, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens.
Cyclone glitches aren't things in real life.
Let me see what other comments we've got. Looney Classics says by the end of Canada, Max will be probably 60 points behind, so I just don't see him coming back, and I don't think the Red Bull will catch McLaren on pace. Let's see. Remember, the Canadian Grand Prix is one of those races where something absolutely mental could happen. I mean, last year's race was a mental race. And if we get similar weather, you never know. Verstappen could win, and McLaren could have a disaster. You don't know. That's why we love the Canadian Grand Prix, because literally anything can happen at that track. Yeah, I'd give it probably another few races before I say Verstappen is out of the championship. Red Bull will have more improvements coming. And if it does make the car better, then Max is still a factor. So yeah, let's see. But if Piastri, I mean, there's 5 races to go until the summer break. Montreal, Red Bull Ring, Silverstone, Spa, and Hungary. If Oscar can win 3 of those 5, then I think he's in a very good position for the championship. So, yeah.
I'm just laughing. They were showing the replays of the incident for Russell and Verstappen, and Norris said, "I've done that before in a Mario Kart."
I was just having a look on X to see the reaction, and yeah, it's absolutely crazy. As
It's bedlam.
yeah, Ronan asking Chazzy, with the exception of Verstappen, do you think the rest of the top drivers hold a candle to prime Kimi, Hamilton, Alonso, etc.? I really don't. In terms of raw pace, I think Leclerc and Russell do, but in terms of like racecraft and race skill, I don't think those two are quite, Alonso, Raikkonen, and obviously younger Hamilton level. But yeah, that I don't think that necessarily means that the grid these days is bad or not great, but yeah, the racecraft is not quite as good overall. I think with this grid as it probably was, say, late or mid to late 2000s. But yeah, and that's the thing you have to remember. Back then, you didn't have DRS, so when you overtook, you actually had to have skill to overtake, rather than press a button and drive past, which is like 90% of the overtakes these days. But yeah, we'll see what happens at the next Grand Prix in Canada. Cannot wait for the Canadian Grand Prix. Again, it's a Grand Prix where literally anything can happen. So we will see what happens in Montreal. Nib, cheers for joining us for this race watch along. And yeah, not sure if you'll be on for Canada, but I'd imagine you'll be back for Austria, which is in, I think, about a month from now. But yeah, cheers as usual to coming on.
Yeah, we'll definitely be on for the Austrian Grand Prix. Just depends on a few circumstances for the Canadian Grand Prix.
Hmm.
But yeah, I shall let you know. And yeah, thanks for everyone for tuning in today. Nice to see a lot of the regulars here. Always talking about Kimi fucking Raikkonen. Um, but yeah, thanks once again. And yeah, I'll see you whenever I see you next.
Yeah, Kimi Raikkonen is a god worshipped in this chat, clearly. But yeah, cheers for coming on. And yeah, we'll see. It'd be great, obviously, to have you on for Canada because normally it is such a great race. And fingers crossed, we get a similar weather forecast to the last Canadian Grand Prix of last year, as it was probably the best race of the year 12 months ago. But thank you guys for coming along for the watch alongs this weekend. Been great to have you along and joining us for the content. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe for more content like this, as we'll be doing qualifying and race watch alongs for every Grand Prix up until the end of July, which is for Montreal, and then Austria, Silverstone, and then Spa at the very end of July. So yeah, that'll be coming your way over the next 7 or 8 weeks or so. Also, before you go, smash a like button if you have not already. Does help the channel in the algorithm. Also, I will quickly finish up the poll in the chat where we've had 36 votes, but a clear winner in the poll as to who is driver of the day. And I'll just wait for it to appear quickly in the chat. As yeah, we'll see when this Verstappen Leclerc investigation. We'll see what the result of it is, but as I said, should be fine. But yeah, 36 votes and 44% of the vote goes to Nico Hulkenberg. What a drive from the Hulkster. Piastri in second, 30% of the vote. Absolutely deserves a shout. Brilliant drive from him. Unbelievable start. Leclerc, 19% of the vote, and Hadjar on 5%. And yeah, thank you guys for coming along to the watch-alongs. Remember, I will be uploading my podcast probably tomorrow, late afternoon, early evening, covering the Spanish Grand Prix. And then there should be a video, at least one video coming out in between the Spanish and Canadian Grand Prix, probably in about 7 or 8 days from now. So yeah, that should hopefully come your way. And until my podcast tomorrow, and until the next Grand Prix on the calendar as we head to North America for the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.